Can you dig it?
Sucker! That felt good. That felt real good.
Yeah, it's a wrong. I mean, you added in the Booker T. That was not Booker T though. So
No, I know it wasn't,
Okay.
but also
how many people have stolen from that movie? And since I wore the shirt the other day, it reminded me of that.
Can you dig it, sucker? Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, this is the Rob Brown Show. This is the Fan Upstate. Hello to you, and how do you do, Upstate South Carolina? Hello, America. What up, world? Great to have you with us today, this lovely Thursday. What a day that we have coming up for you today. I got to talk NBA draft because the Hornets were involved in some interesting moves last night. The Hawks were involved in some interesting moves last night. You know, there was one spot where the Hawks drafted a guy and they traded him, so he went from a Hawk to a Bull. Hey-oh, been sitting on that one all night. Felt real good. We have got to talk a lot of NBA draft. Here's the thing that I loved about that draft, because I sat down, great one, last night with every intention of following along very closely with the NBA draft, because it's the NBA draft. Why wouldn't I? So I'm following along with the NBA draft last night, and I was kind of, taking notes and getting ready to talk about it this morning on the show. It's a big event because, much like we say with the NFL draft every year, yes, the season just ended 5 days ago, but felt real good last night because on draft night, everybody's undefeated. Everybody is trusting that their team and their GM aren't going to screw it up. I am relatively sure the first time this year, I haven't broke out the Pelly shirt today because I like the draft from last night for New Orleans. Now, I'm not going to like it next year because we now officially have no picks next year.
Wait, so that's a Pelican?
Well, it's our theme night. This is our City Connect. We went with like a Halloween neon green and purple.
Because that looks like an emperor's head moth or something.
No, it's a pelican, but it's skeleton. So it's a pelican skeleton skull, and the wings are bones with feathers instead of like the bird feathers. It's our alternate logo, and it's my favorite logo. I wish we just went neon green and purple boned theme all the time for two reasons. One, it looks great. And because number two, usually when I watch the Pelicans, I think to myself, we're boned. So it works out great. So I'm sitting down to follow along last night with the NBA draft, and I've got my little tablet of truth out to take the notes about, all right, who's Charlotte taking early in this draft? Con Knipple, by the way. Hey, okay. I don't love it. I don't hate it. Kind of all right. We'll talk about that coming up in a little while. And then we get our first trade. And then we get our next trade. And then how about this? Of the 30 picks that were made last night, a third of them were traded. 10 of 30 picks were picks that moved. This is something that is very interesting about the NFL draft, the NBA draft in comparison to the NFL draft. Somebody yesterday on social media made an argument that I really liked. They said, because we were having a conversation, a group of people were having a conversation about, can teams draft well in the NBA? Because, and Zoe and I had a conversation yesterday before we both left the studio to head back to the Fortress of Nerditude. And the conversation we had was, yeah, we're all pumped up about the draft. We're excited about, top 10 guys, lottery guys, whatever. How many of those dudes are going to make an impact next year? How many of those dudes drafted in the first round are even going to play in the association next year? How many of them will spend a couple of years in the G League? How many of them will never get out of the G League, et cetera, et cetera? And that, I honestly was thinking about that quite a lot into the evening as I got set up for the draft last night. And somebody said something online that I have been spinning around. And I will acknowledge that because the draft was last night, I did not have the time or opportunity or effort to go actually dig the numbers. I'm going to try to do that this afternoon and have it ready for tomorrow after round 2 concludes tonight. But somebody said yesterday on social media to me, it is not about how you draft in the NBA. It is about how you develop. They said, have you ever looked at the fact that with all these different teams that keep coming up with draft day steals? They were one of the arguments was based around Steph Curry, because the year that Steph Curry got drafted by Golden State, Minnesota had the 2 previous picks. They picked 2 dudes, one of which was Ricky Rubio. They picked 2 dudes at, I think they were 6 and 7 before Steph Curry came off the board at 8. Now, in fairness, Steph Curry was known more for being Del Curry's kid than he was a generational shooter at that point. But, and the reason for that is, and the reason he got bumped up to 8 when he was expected to be a late first round, early second round pick was Steph Curry had that really good run through the tournament that year. Remember when he just he looked like Steph Curry, like what Steph Curry was going to come and turn into. And you kind of got that first glimpse in that tournament of, oh, this kid can hoop a little bit. This kid can shoot. This kid's a sniper. So Minnesota passed on Steph Curry twice. And obviously it's easy looking at where we are now to dunk on Minnesota and been like, what would you have been if you would have drafted Steph Curry? Would you have been what Golden State was during the high of Steph Curry's career? And a lot of people were kind of making commentary. Yeah, it's easy to judge that a handful of years and Steph's whole career later. But the point was, Golden State has, over the years, done a very good job, not of drafting, but of developing. A very good job of understanding what the guys they draft need to become great NBA players. And somebody pointed out that if you go look at all of these stories of, so-and-so got skipped over twice by this team, or that team had the option to draft this guy, but they traded back and they ended up with, some guy who played a few years and was always just kind of okay. He said, you ever notice it's always the same teams that are passing on guys, and it's always the same teams that are finding those guys. And we always kind of want to credit it as, what a wonderful job of drafting. But the reality is, they know the type of player that they need to make the team good. Then they get that type of player and they develop them within that system. And I'm going to pay attention to that with last year's draft, the year before that's draft, and I'm going to watch it develop with this year's draft, because I do think that it is going to be interesting to see with some of these players. Ace Bailey, for instance, very interesting pick. We were talking yesterday, Ace Bailey's the one with the drama. He wasn't going to Philly. He was skipping out on workouts. He was turning down invitations for dinner with GM and all that. He didn't want to go to Philly, so he skipped out on dinner with the GM and all that. His agent had made it known that his preferred landing spots were, hilariously enough, New Orleans and Washington. Now, you want to know why that is? I thought about this last night. I thought about it after we talked about it yesterday, and I came to the realization that in both of those teams, he's going to get paired with a good player, maybe even a great player, but not a wildly culturally significant player, meaning he could go in there, I'm speculating here. He could go into a place like New Orleans and he could develop and grow himself as a player and a brand, but not have to carry the weight of the franchise, because that's Zion's job. He could go to Washington, kind of do the same thing. So Ace Bailey wanted to go to Washington or New Orleans, where I think he could kind of grow and develop and be off in a small market and grow his brand, whatever. Didn't want to land anywhere else. Gets drafted by the Utah Jazz, who you could see. again, speculating here, but like they turned the camera to Ace Bailey after he got announced as Utah's pick, and his face was this moment of like, you gotta be bleeping kidding. Utah! Now, I actually really like the fit of Ace Bailey in Utah. I think he really kind of meshes with what they needed in that spot. But now the question mark's going to be, is Utah going to be able to develop a guy like Ace Bailey, or in 5 years, 4 years after his rookie contract is up and he never becomes that guy, does he get traded up out of there, go somewhere else, become that star, and everybody blames Utah or whatever?
That's the big question. So if you are a star and known as a star in the college ranks, that usually translates to being a star for the most part in the NBA. The guys who aren't stars, you don't hear from them again. I am looking at the 2024 draft. I only know a handful of these guys. And I think the same thing's going to happen in this draft. You know Cooper Flagg's playing right away.
Sure.
That's it.
Ace Bailey's playing right away. There's
going
to the lottery.
Is he?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Ace Bailey absolutely will.
I don't know.
Ace Bailey
You
absolutely.
don't even know if he's playing for that team.
No, he will play for Utah. So this is the thing. He does not have any leverage to not play for Utah. Like there's nothing he can do.
He also hasn't signed a contract yet either.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess he has the option of
not playing
at all,
going to Europe or something.
Sure,
which people have done before.
But
so.
as the number 2 pick, he's going to be turning down dozens of millions of dollars to do that. So how much do you not listen? I've said this before. I got no interest in doing a show in Topeka, but if tomorrow whatever calls and goes, hey, Rob Brown, we're up here in Topeka, Kansas. We've heard a lot about you. We'd like to hire you, and we're going to pay you $5 million a year. Buddy, I'm going to do my 4 or 5 years in Topeka because then I can go do whatever I want.
Who was the number 2 pick in the NBA draft last year?
Alex Sarr, and I only know that because I was looking at it last night.
Okay.
Went to the Washington Wizards. Number 2 last night.
Did he play?
He was a center. He wasn't super. I think he had some PT. I don't really know, to tell you the truth. But then again, in fairness, it's the Washington Wizards.
See, I get that.
You know what I mean?
But I think maybe we're spoiled by the NFL draft. When you see these guys, especially the top picks, you know they're playing unless they're a quarterback and they decide to set him for a while. If a lineman gets drafted, he's probably playing. If a receiver gets drafted, he's probably playing.
Yeah, I think
in basketball, I don't know.
You're not wrong, but I also would look and say to some degree, especially for us, like I'm a big basketball guy, so I'm all in on the draft or whatever, but I'm obviously a big football guy too. I look at last year, Marvin Harrison Jr. for the 2024 draft. Caleb Williams, we know where he is. He hasn't reached star yet. Now, again, much like I did with Trevor Lawrence and Bryce Young, I'm playing that on the franchise.
This ain't even about stardom. It's about playing, period. In the NBA, you get drafted, and you don't. A lot of these guys don't make it on the floor.
I don't disagree. I'm also going to say, and this might be a basketball elitist. No, it's not an elitist take. I'm going to go with this is a guy who knows ball take. I think the difference between college basketball and pro basketball is a much wider difference than the difference between college football and pro football. Like the guys in pro football.
It was, but I don't know that it's going to stay that way because, again, we've talked about with NIL money, guys staying in college longer, developing longer. So when they get to the NBA, I think it'll be different.
Well, I'm not even talking about developing as a player, growing into your body, whatever. I'm talking about the game is just different. Right? Like it's a different game of it's at its core, it's basketball. It's
You're
dribble,
right,
it's shoot, it's pass, it's defend.
They have quarters in the NBA.
Which, by the way, the NCAA is discussing getting rid of quarters getting rid of halves and going to quarters in men's basketball, doing 4 10-minutes like they do on the women's side. I'd be fine if they got rid of halves and went to 4 12-minute quarters. Just do it the same length as the NBA.
Right.
But that's a different discussion for another segment. I think the gulf of difference in not development of the players, but the game itself between college basketball and pro basketball makes sense that a lot of these guys, especially when we're talking about picks 8 through the rest of the draft, it makes sense to me that they need more time in a system like a G League that is developmental in the NBA style of basketball, because I don't know how many the guys that come out of college or come from. Now, there is an advantage here. This is interesting, too. I think a different conversation with the number of guys that got drafted last night from the NBA Africa Academy, NBA Europe, whatever. Guys that are coming over like Victor Wembanyama, like Zachary Richardson, who was the Atlanta Hawks pick number 1 overall last year. These guys come over from playing effectively pro ball in Europe. The folks in Europe, even though it's FIBA ball, have constructed their basketball to have a more similar NBA feel than the college game does here. And because of that, a lot of those European guys, French guys, Spanish guys, German guys, Russian guys, Eastern European guys, African players, they come over and they're more trained in the NBA style of basketball versus the guys coming out of college, especially if they played 3 or 4 years in college, but certainly 2 or 3 years in college, not talking about the one and dones that got so used to playing college ball. You got to train them. They've got to be developed out of that. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to follow. And one of the things that I am planning on doing tonight, I believe I'm going to have time. One of the things I'm going to plan to do tonight, I'm going to go look at last year's NBA draft, the 2024 NBA draft, and I'm going to take out the guys who got hurt, the guys who got injured, the guys who couldn't play because of physical reasons, and then look at all the dudes who either did play, didn't play, spent the whole season in the G League, maybe bounced up and down on a two-way, whatever the case might be. And we will get into that a little bit because I'm kind of curious, and I wonder if that's going to stay true of this year's draft class. The portal and NIL have been in play for enough time now that the kids that are coming into the NBA draft, and they're 2-year guys, they've played in the NIL world the whole time. Right? Like, you're in the NIL world now. This isn't like, oh, well, what's the future? You're in it. You're living it right now. So I'm going to go look at all the dudes that came in last year and see how many of them made an impact, if at all. Because I'm looking down at the bottom half of round 1, and there's guys like Isaiah Collier, who was a very interesting pick out of USC as a point guard, a guy that was diagnosed as has the skill set, is really rough around the edges. I want to go look. Let's go see what they did. And I'm not just talking about in the association. Did they dominate the G League? And they just said, hey, go cook, go develop, because I do think that there is some level of some NBA teams are just better at understanding what their young cats need in order to turn into the best version of themselves.
Dominating the G League, I don't think that translates. The guy who's won the dunk contest dominates the G League.
He does not dominate the G League. He dominates the dunk contest, and I love him.
I think he's
got good numbers in the G League.
I think he led the league in points, not this last year, but the year before. He's pretty good in the G League.
Oh, he's definitely good. Oh, Mac's pretty good.
I'm just saying, I don't think that necessarily translates.
He's also a 5'10" white guy that's not as good as TJ McConnell, right? There are some guys. Again, it's kind of like the argument I've made about me for a long time. If I was 6'8", I'd have been a good basketball player. The game that I was capable of at 6'3", it's not that I didn't want to work for it. I wasn't willing to grind. I was the hardest worker on my team, every team I was on. I just stunk. I just didn't have the physical build to play the game. I was a big man in a power forward's body at 6'3". Actually, when you talk about big time college, I was a big man in a point guard's body. I didn't have point guard game. If I A, was 6'9", or B, had point guard game, yeah, I probably could have done something with it. Some guys just aren't built like that. That's why we celebrate the Alex Carusos of the world. Because you look at that guy and you go,
hey, don't you disparage Alex Caruso.
I'm not. I'm actually going to hand Alex Caruso some flowers later in the show. I love Alex Caruso. And TJ McConnell. I like gritty glue guy. I'm a big fan of gritty glue guy.
Why are you only talking about white dudes?
Name me the other gritty glue guy.
Austin Reeves.
There you go. There you go. All right, we're going to talk some NBA draft as the show progresses. Got a couple of college football topics to get into today on the show. Lonzo sent me yesterday a graphic that is from the EA College Football 2026 game that is dropping soon. Soon, right? Or is it already out? I don't really know. Anyway.
I'll check.
They ranked the hardest stadiums to play. And I told you, it's peak off-season radio. It's ranking season, baby. They ranked the hardest stadiums to play in. Clemson and South Carolina, both ranked. But where? Nah. It's my evil henchman laugh. Come back and find out. Rob Alonzo, you, the Rob Brown Show, the fan upstate.
QC.
Good morning, guys. Live reading them. We're coming right back. Stay right there for me, please, and thank you. The Rob Brown Show back on your radio. It is the Fan of State. Little early NBA draft conversation from last night. If you are not an NBA guy, then hang out for a few minutes. We're going to circle back around. Don't you worry about it. I got a lot of college football talk coming up later on in the radio program. I've got some NFL talk we're going to get to, a little more Carolina Panther talk, a little overall NFL talk, and more. Can I tell you my favorite part about last night? My favorite part about last night was that there was at least a couple of picks that took place where kids walked up to the stage after being selected, and I don't know if they didn't notice or the NBA didn't notice or whatever, and they had the wrong team's hat on the thing for them to put on. So there was like at least two kids that got up there and put on the hat of a team that didn't draft them. And it was very awkward. That's not my favorite part. My favorite part is I'm a big Scott Van Pelt guy. I think Scott Van Pelt might be the best personality on TV right now. He is emotional, loves the sports, but he's also a sports guy. He's going to talk about the X's and O's. Keeps it even keel. When he does the highlights, he includes more than just like the one or two. I like Scott Van Pelt a lot. And dude was heated at the end of that broadcast. I mean, Mans was furious at the end of that broadcast.
I'm going to go the emotion I loved. I'm going to scream about the hat situation. It's not any, the league's too smart to have the moment that they've waited their whole life for be a picture in the wrong hat. It just doesn't make sense. I don't know why they can't fix it. Jay, it's not your job to fix it. I want to ask you about the
So he went on to ask Jay Billis, what the hell was that? And you could tell poor Jay, was in this spot where he's like, dog, what do you want me to say?
Poor Jay. I mean,
I like Jay.
Yeah, he's also kind of a punk. So
I mean, like maybe, but
he was a punk to me on the phone. So he's forever a punk.
I mean, that's fair. I've interacted with some people that like.
He did put Mark Bryan in his place, like kind of a "who are you" type thing, which I thought was hilarious. But it was mean to me on the phone. It's like, yeah, okay, I will forever not like you. I hold a grudge. I don't know if you knew that.
Now you do have to keep in mind there is.
He comes across as an angry guy because I do believe he is. And so him being upset is not unusual. That's all I'm trying to say.
Here's the dirty little secret. To make it to that level of media, you kind of got to be a butthole. Like, it's unfortunate. You either have to be. I've had extended interaction with Scott Van Pelt with SVP. A girl that I was dating a long time ago. Her sister was sorority sisters with Van Pelt's wife. And so when she got married, SVP's wife was in the bridal party, as was obviously my at the time girlfriend. And so the sister, when she put the tables together, put me next to Scott Van Pelt. She's like, obviously, you guys hopefully will hit it off and it won't be awkward. So I was sitting next to SVP at the wedding. Super nice guy. We got in a conversation. He vacations in Destin. We were talking about that, whatever. He's one of the guys that, like, I can tell you sincerely, his on-the-air character, personality is just who he is in real life.
Okay, you set that up like he was going to be a jerk.
No, I was saying quite the opposite.
Thank goodness you didn't go there.
What I'm saying is a lot of the people on TV that you really do like are buttholes behind the scenes, and there's two ways to make it to the top if you want to rock and roll. Number one is you be exceptionally and exceedingly nice to the point that people like really remember you because of how kind you are. That's obviously what I try to do. Or you step on people's throats and you stab people in the back. And we all know some people like that. So it is what it is, whatever. The hat thing is interesting because I do think that there are some behind the scenes stuff that SVP was talking about, and that is the way that the NBA draft works is different than the NFL draft. The NBA draft, you can select a cat and then trade him. In the NFL, if you select a cat, you got to sign him to a contract. Then you can trade him. The NBA teams are allowed to trade a player they've just drafted before that player signs a contract, unlike in the NFL, where the player cannot be traded until they are under a contract. So what happens in that spot is that a player will get drafted, they will walk up on stage with the hat of the team that selected them, but oftentimes what happens is the team that selected them already had a deal in place to trade them. They already knew that they were sending them on, and so you end up with kids wearing the wrong hat. And so what SVP was saying there is not like, oh, they just grabbed the wrong one and put it on the little hat podium thing that they had, little hat podium.
Rack? Hat rack.
No, they had like a legitimately like a podium, and when the kid got drafted, come out, it would just be the hat sitting on top of a hat podium. I'm going hat podium.
Okay, all right.
So they had the hat on top of the hat podium, and I think what Van Pelt was saying there was, if you know a kid is getting traded, if you know that they are going to draft this dude and he's already on his way out of town because they traded the draft rights. That happened with Asa Newell last night.
I was going to say, this isn't unusual.
This happened like
though.
5 times last night.
This happened a bunch throughout
It happened
the
like
draft.
10 times or like 4 times last night. Right?
Yeah,
It happened to Asa Newell, happened to a couple others.
There's no way to fix that. I know you're saying if they know it, but that if you come out wearing the hat of the team they're going to be traded to, that takes the drama, whatever little drama away.
Well, some of those trades happen after, like 2-3 picks later. So it's like it is what it is. You got drafted. You did get, even if you got traded from him, you did get drafted by that team. But a lot of these deals go down where, and this happened to. Oh goodness, who was it last night? It was in the top 5 or 6 picks. I'm blanking right now. I'll go back and try to recall and remember. This happened a couple of times last night where a kid got drafted and then within before the pick got announced. I know this happened with at least once. They brought Shams on to do a Shams wow where he said, I think it was Cedric Coward who got drafted to Portland at 11. Then they traded him to Memphis. Shams came out before the pick was announced, and he's like, just as an FYI, they're going to draft this kid, and they're going to trade him to Memphis in return for whatever. And I think the argument that SVP was making in that spot was, if you know that's going to happen, like, let the kid come out wearing the hat of the team he's traded to, not that he got, drafted. I don't know. It's just a weird thing. The NBA's draft rules are very weird. But I'll tell you what I'd like to do. I'd like to go to the break on time here. You're welcome. And here's why. Because I'd like to spend one more segment on the NBA draft. But I will actually talk not about hats, not about hat podiums, not about Scott Van Pelt. When we come back, let's talk about some of the winners and losers last night and whether or not the Hornets, the Hawks, any of the big market teams or small market teams are in that group. How did the Hornets make out last night? They got a couple of picks I like. They got a couple of setup for the future moves that I like. What about the Hawks? They were involved in a number of moves last night. Where'd they end up at? Let's talk about the actual draft when we come back. Hour 2, Water Cooler Cheat Sheet. Got some great sound for you coming up at 8:30 because we got Lulu Kesson at 8 o'clock. Rashad Beard moving to Fridays from today on, by the way. The Rob Brown Show is on the Fan Upstate. I probably could have done better than just randomly saying that. Did you see the video of him after he got picked? He's at the table. He stands up, and his face is like totally blank, and he very clearly mouths.
Oh, yeah, I heard about that. Yeah.
But the debate going on right now is, did he look at that and go, crap, I got to Canada, or was it like relief? Because like his mom comes over and they do a big hug in that moment. So like half the people are like, he was probably just relieved in that moment because he didn't know, like Colin Murray Bowles was being labeled as, could be a top 10 pick, could be an early round 2 pick. Like nobody really knew. So was he relieved, or was he like, damn it, I got to go to Canada?
I think a lot of people, yeah, Canada. I mean. Don't know why I'm just sitting here and not talking. I don't. Just being reflective. And while reflecting, you can't be talking. I guess you can be talking. If you're talking out loud, are you reflecting? I suppose you are. Maybe. Or reflecting's an inner monologue. I don't know.
You stay classy.
It's all we do is class, man. We class the joint up, eh? Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Rob Brown, Lonzo, and you. It is the Rob Brown Show here on the Fan Upstate. Hub City Spartanburger text line. Thoughts on the NBA draft last night? 844-326-3663. If you are a Charlotte fan, if you are an Atlanta fan, if you are just a fan of whomstever, and you got thoughts on your team's draft last night, hit me up. Again, we're not going to spend the entire show on the NBA draft because the NBA draft is, of course, wildly consequential to the future of franchises, but at the same time, as Lonzo has pointed out correctly a number of times, a good portion of the cats that you saw drafted last night, you'll never hear from them again. Or if you do, it's because they're like a third-string reserve guy down the line. But the teams that know how to A, draft well, and then B, develop the guys that they draft well, they can change their franchise's destiny. Jacob texted the show, said, that happened to Kobe Bryant, worst trade in NBA history, Queen City buzz for the win. Keep in mind that Kobe Bryant in 1996 was kind of a weird situation. And when Charlotte drafted Kobe, the Lakers had already made a deal with Charlotte. They were going to send Vlade Divac to to Charlotte in return for Kobe Bryant. And at the time, Vlade Divac was kind of a dude. Like, he wasn't Shaq, but Vlade for a hot minute there was kind of a dude. He was a proven NBA guy. The Hornets at the time wanted help in the front court. Divac was going to give them that. And now here's the part where it is a mistake. Charlotte did not see Kobe as part of their long-term plan. But here's the reality. Kobe Bryant was a high school kid, right? Like, if you're Charlotte, gambling your entire, and you look back at it now and you go like, maybe it is what teams should do, but gambling your future on one of the very few kids that were getting drafted out of high school, that's a big risk. So it kind of made sense that was going to happen. Then you also have to remind yourself that Kobe and his agent, they wanted to go to LA. And so in a situation like that where a kid says, I want to be here, and that team wants him, you could make the argument that gives you a little bit of leverage in the trade, which is why they ended up with Vlade Divac at the height of Vlade, not random dude, right? They didn't end up with some random shooting guard that wasn't going to help them all that much. So I think that there is you're right, Jacob. It is the worst move ever, but it wasn't like it was a super avoidable reality for Charlotte at the time. All right, let's take a look at some of the interesting things that broke out last night, as well as the picks that were made and how they wrapped up for the local teams. Let's open up with Charlotte drafting 4th overall. VJ Edgecombe came off the board to number 3 at Philadelphia. There was a hot second there that I kind of thought, all right, maybe the Buzz go Ace Bailey here. Now, we talked about this yesterday. Ace Bailey's the cat that probably was overplay. Actually, not probably. We now know that he was overplaying his hand a little bit in the lead up to the draft, or maybe thought he had more leverage than he did. Ace Bailey was turning down workouts with teams. We did not specifically hear that he did or did not do so with the Charlotte Hornets. My assumption is he did because I never heard that Bailey was working out with Charlotte. Maybe that's why Charlotte wasn't there. I will say that I think the decision by Arizona, or scratch that, Arizona. I think the decision by Utah to draft him anyway, when he very clearly, not that he didn't want to be in Utah, we just didn't know where he did want to go. And it wasn't the Utah Jazz. So that is a move that is a big roll of the dice for the Jazz. If the kid is willing to go, okay, you know what? I didn't get what I want, but I do get to go to the NBA. I didn't get what I want, but I get to go play in the league. I didn't get what I want, but I do get to go and change my family's future and make tens of millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars, and effectively have the chance to become the guy. Utah, while it does have I'll say particular, interesting, and in many cases questionable fan base in Utah, it's also a rabid fan base. Like, it's a good fan base. Utah ever makes the playoffs and makes a run, they're gonna have the same reception as the Thunder did, as the Pacers did, in terms of people going, oh damn, that's a pretty good home court advantage. So that's kind of an interesting move. It's a gutsy move from Utah because you are rolling the dice that the kid's not going to come in there and effectively, like Anthony Davis did in New Orleans, go, yo, I'm hanging out here for a few years until I get the chance to, not have to hang out here anymore. I kind of thought Charlotte was going to do that. They decide instead of Ace Bailey to go with Con Knippel out of Duke. Yeah, I'm hot cold on this cat. You know what you needed? You needed a shooter. You needed a wing player, right? Like, that's been the big conversation about the Buzz. They need somebody who is a genuine perimeter threat. There's one other element of this that I think made Con Knippel the guy that Charlotte decided to go with over rolling the dice on Ace Bailey. I'm going to give Charles Lee, the head coach, I'm going to give him one little bit of credit here. He is very clearly a dude who is, as a former player, very clearly a dude who has bought all the way into, I'm going to put the culture into place, and I am going to do whatever I have to do to maintain the culture. Why? Why do I say that? LaMelo Ball. Now, go back to the beginning of last year before the injuries started stacking up again on LaMelo. If you go back to the beginning of last year's NBA season, you will recall that there was a hot minute where LaMelo Ball was being discussed as an all-star. There was a hot minute where LaMelo Ball was being discussed as, is this kid him? Like, he might be.
He can't stay healthy.
I don't disagree, but he stayed healthier for longer than he had most other seasons of his career. And so people were looking and they go, because again, and I know we're kind of diving into a lot of minutia here, but keep in mind, it's Jason Kelsey in a Speedo in case you.
Yeah, I saw it earlier. Thank you for making me see it twice.
I had to. You had to. Hey, whatever, man. My man's living his best life. I respect it. LaMelo Ball last year came back into the NBA and he was wearing the ankle braces and the high tops and all that, right? And everybody was like, oh, he's taking care of, he's taking it seriously now. And he was balling out to the point there were discussions about LaMelo being an all-star. Well, at one point while that discussion of LaMelo being an all-star was happening, Charles Lee benched LaMelo Ball. And everybody was like, yo, what are we doing here? You're benching our guy. And Charles Lee was not hesitant about saying, look, defense is part of what we're going to do here. And LaMelo's scoring, but he's scoring, and then he's just giving them two back the other way. He's a net zero player. So he's going to buy in or he's going to buy out. And he sat LaMelo Ball. And LaMelo had, and I don't know if he's made any conversation to the contrary since then, but LaMelo seemed like he was pretty committed to being a Charlotte Hornet, was pretty committed to putting Charlotte back on the map with some relevancy. And so Charles Lee benching him, there were a lot of Hornets fans that were real upset about that. And my response was, I kind of don't hate it, because that's a culture move. That's a, look, nobody's above the program. And Some coaches try to do the nobody's above the program move, and what they end up doing is ticking off everybody on the roster, and you end up by trying to create a culture, erasing any semblance of it. But if you've got that pull, if you're a former player and the guys in the locker room look at you and if you have the respect of your roster and you pull that move, guys on the team are going to be like, okay, cool, good. LaMelo nor anybody else is above me, and I'm not above him, and nobody's above the roster. Nobody's is above the name on the front of the jersey, right? So I think Charles Lee's kind of a culture guy. But here's the thing. If you want to be a culture guy, as I think Charles Lee is attempting to be right now, if you want to be a culture guy, you have got to have guys that are culture guys. Con Knipple is an interesting pick for that reason. There's a lot of good about the kid's game. He's an outstanding shooter. He's a super disciplined passer. He's a good plug-and-play wing option. I do think Con Knipple's a guy that is a day one starter for the Charlotte Hornets. I think opening day, his name's getting called over the PA in the CHA. There's also some elements to his game that are a little bit lacking. He's an okay passer. He's not a great shot creator. He's not really able to catch and make a move. Now, if you hit him in space, if you hit him where he's got room to shoot, he's going 50% from the line. He's going 50% from three. Like, the kid can shoot. He's a sniper. He's got that in him. The problem is, unlike a Steph Curry, he's not great at getting the ball defended and creating the shot, right? Like, one of the beautiful things about Steph Curry's game is you can get him the ball at the top of the key with a man in his face, and he can create that shot, whether it's a step forward, step back, drive and pull, or go to the lane. Steph Curry can create his shot. Con Knipple, not great with shot creation right now. He's going to have to be a better finisher. He's going to have to be better at creating under pressure. Phenomenal perimeter shooting. And I will say right now, I had to give flowers to noted Bucky's guy, Kendrick Perkins, last night. Because K-Perk was saying on the draft broadcast something that a lot of other analysts were not addressing. And it is this. There are two elements right now to basketball that the good teams recognize and are taking advantage and playing to, and the bad ones aren't. Number one is that it is not about quantity of three-point shots. It's about quality of three-point shots. You know what? I like this take. I was thinking about this when we got deep into some SGA conversation, and I'm going to tell you about why later on in the show. But I was having an SGA conversation with a buddy of mine from college who was a big basketball guy last night. The conversation is this. What was the role that SGA got, the tag he got hit with this year? Free throw merchant? Michael Jordan shot more free throws per game per season in every year of his career than SGA did this year.
How dare you compare SGA to Michael Jordan?
Right, but you get the point, right?
You're going to make people really angry.
Kobe Bryant shot more free throws per game in his career than SGA
did. Not only did you put him in there with Michael Jordan, you put him in there with Kobe Bryant. Why would you do such a thing?
I have found myself defending. I have found myself kind of rotating off the SGA's free throw merchant critique. And I'm going to tell you why a little bit later on in the show. But the point with all of that was SGA is a guy who has more drives to the lane than anybody else. Over the past 5 seasons in a row, every year, SGA has more drives per game than any other player in the NBA. 5 years in a row, he's got that. That is what happens when you recognize that attacking the basket sets up the three, not the other way around. And that's why the Thunder are where they are. That's the game that they play. Con Knipple is a guy who takes advantage of that. Con Knipple's a guy that is going to be best when a drive to the lane sets up the three, not use the three to set up a drive to the lane. You don't use a 50% shot to set up, you don't use a 30% shot to set up a 50% shot. You use the 50% shot to set up the 30% shot. You don't use the drive to the lane to set up the three. Or scratch that. God, I'm going to get this right. You don't use the three to set up the drive to the lane. Some teams will. We're going to shoot 75 three-pointers, and the reason why is to try to draw the wing players out, to draw the free throw line defenders out to the three-point line, and open up the lane for an attack. No. Attack the basket. Even if you're driving into traffic, it's still a higher percentage shot. Attack the basket, then kick it to your snipers who now don't have guys out because it's the opposite. The defense has collapsed. Concaniple's the guy that takes advantage of that. Phenomenal perimeter shooter, not a great driver to the basket. So I actually like this pick. I do hope that they are able to develop him as a drive scorer. Not even get to the rim, but like take advantage of the short corner. If the big man in the middle shades over to the other side because LaMelo's attacking the far side, give me a guy who can catch, drive to the short corner, and hit the mid-range. And I think he can do that. He's just not going to be able to do it with a hand in his face, at least not right out of the gate. So I don't hate this pick. I think Ace Bailey's a better player. I think he's a better baller. I think he's got more tools in the toolkit. I think he's more athletic. I think he's a better scorer. The reason that everybody was high on Ace Bailey is that cat can and does score from anywhere on the basketball court. That is not Concanipple. Ace Bailey it is. But this might be a tood pick, dude. This might be an attitude pick.
Well,
this might be a mental pick.
I think that's part of it, and also where he played basketball in college.
He's got that Duke pedigree. He was
not
obviously
just that he played in Duke, but Duke is in North Carolina and Charlotte.
That's also
North
true.
Carolina.
You're gonna get some fan base on board. I didn't even think about that. That's a great point. You get a Dookie to come to Charlotte. You grow the fan base in the Carolinas a little bit. That's a great thought. Didn't even have it. Good call. I think that this is an attitude pick in that Concanipple strikes everybody as a dude that is, I'm going to do whatever I need to do for the team. He did that with Duke last year. Remember, he was a reserve role guy for Duke last year. And then they went to, not reserve guy, he was a role guy in the offense because the offense was, where's Cooper Flagg? That was the offense. Then they got to the ACC tournament, and Cooper Flagg got hurt. Now, we were talking about it at the time that it happened, and we were talking about the fact that the belief was Cooper Flagg probably could have come back a game or two earlier than he did, but they wanted to give him time, and they were able to give him time because Concanipple was able to fill the role. Concanipple was able to go, okay, I'm a perimeter shooter, but I can play where Cooper plays. Not as well as him, but I can play where he plays, and we can bring in other guys to do what I do, and we're going to be better for that. He is a clubhouse guy. He is a culture guy. He is a guy that's going to buy into that. So, well-rounded perimeter game, phenomenal three-point shooter, good locker room dude, super dependable, not any history of injury that you've got to worry about, and guy who played his college ball in the Carolinas, meaning you bring the Dukies over to you. I think he's a night one starter. I think he is probably playing the the shooting forward spot night of opening day for the Hornets. I think he and LaMelo can work well here because LaMelo, kind of like SGA, is a slash score threat distribute, right? LaMelo can drive, if he can stay healthy, LaMelo can come off the dribble. He can attack in either direction, right or left, and then he can either be the mid-range guy, attack the rim, but he's a better assist maker than he gets credit for. So if he can get to the inside and draw defenses down and give Concanipple some space, these two could be a good 1-2 tandem. That's the optimistic viewpoint. If Concanipple's not a threat with the basketball, maybe that kind of quells that a little bit. All right, we got to come back to this later because there was one more significant move that the Buzz made last night, trading Mark Williams out to Phoenix. They do get a guy and a pick in return. I'll tell you what they did with it coming up later in the show. Water cooler cheat sheet next. I'll run you through the top 3 sports stories that you need to know before you get to the office. I got some great sound for you. Lulu Kessin at 8 o'clock. All that coming up after Lonzo gives you a first overall draft pick caliber sports flash.
Yeah, but I'll be in the G League for a while. It just happens. The Atlanta Braves' perfection against the Mets came to a conclusion last night with a 7-3 loss to New York. Rookie Didier Fuentes made his second big league start, but got hammered, giving up 8 hits and 6 runs in 3.1 innings, striking out just 1. The Braves collected 6 hits, including Drake Baldwin's 9th homer of the year, but went 1-6 with runners in scoring position. The Charlotte Hornets selected Duke Concanipple with the 4th overall selection, a 6'5" wing player with a great shot and aggressive defense. Charlotte also traded center Mark Williams to Phoenix in return for the number 29 pick and a first-rounder in 2029, as well as center Vasily Micic. The Hornets drafted UConn's Liam McNeely with the pick. Ace Bailey was a shock pick to Utah at number 5. Bailey was not secretive with his desire to land in either Washington or New York, and that didn't happen. Not my best. We're going to buckle down. We're going to get in the gym. We're going to do better next hour.
Okay, none of us have any class. That's why we're all friends here. Top 10 women's wrestlers selling shirts. Stephanie Vakir, number 1. Rhea 2, Alexa 3, Nikki Bella 4, Asuka 5, Liv 6, Naomi 7, Bianca 8, Io 9, Becky Lynch 10. Anything about that list surprise you?
I think the Bella thing is because if the shirt is shaped the way the shirts that she wears, I'm just guessing, and it's summer.
You know what I would really like to see? I would like to see the demographic breakdown of customers of the shirts. I'd like to see how many dudes are buying women's shirts.
I think I've only bought one women's wrestler shirt.
I bought a few over the years. I have not bought one recently. I did almost buy a Rhea Ripley shirt at the event at Raw last month.
When she was Ember
Those
Moon,
t-shirts are so
I
damn
bought
expensive.
I bought an Ember Moon shirt.
Ember, yeah.
Yeah.
The Rob Brown Show, back on your radio. It is the Fan Upstate. Rob Brown, the great one, Lonzo, and you. The Hub City Spartanburger text line open for you, 844-326-3663. That is also the number that you should call if you'd like to get on the air. If you've got any thoughts on last night's NBA draft. Now's the time to fire them off, either on the text or if you got a hot take, give it to me on the air at 844-326-3663. I will remind you once again, you're welcome to and encouraged to be a part of the show. We want you to be a part of the show. 844-326-3663. You can also tweet me if you wish to do so at The Rob Brown Show, at The Rob Brown Show. You can also tweet Lonzo if you wish to do so at Lonzo on Word, W-O-R-D, at Lonzo on Word. You can get at everybody here at the station at The Fan Upstate if you want to jump on board in that direction. You can do so as well. If you got something a little more long format, but you don't want to get on the air with it, if it's too long for a text or a tweet, but you don't want to call in, rob.brown at thefanupstate.com, rob.brown at thefanupstate.com. That is available for you as well. Let's, ladies and gentlemen, as it is 7:00, well, I was going to do the wait almost 7:02, but there's too much time. So I'll just say it is 7:01, 7:02 in the morning, 58 minutes on the dot until you got to get your Boutte into the office, get sat down, respond to all of those emails that you ignored last night because you were watching baseball or the NBA draft or whatever you were doing last night. You're going to respond to those, and then you're going to get up. You're going to walk down the hallway. You're going to go find Stephanie from Accounts Receivable, and you're going to talk some sports. Maybe you're going to talk about the NBA draft. Maybe you're going to talk a little baseball. Who knows? But if you're going to talk sports, you got to know what's going on. And the good news is for you is that we do this.
Are you ready for the playbook of the peculiar, the almanac of the absurd, and the encyclopedia of the extraordinary? Well, you better be, because we're diving headfirst into the 3 top stories that will have your coworkers saying,
Can you dig it?
bathroom break.
No.
Here we go. Welcome to the water cooler cheat sheet on the Fan Upstate.
It's the water cooler cheat sheet, the top 3 sports stories you need to know before you get to the office and start talking sports. This morning when you do, this is what you'll be talking about. Let's dive right in, shall we? With item number 1. NBA draft goes down last night. We have already talked about it, broken it down from the Charlotte perspective at length, but there were a lot of other teams who made picks last night. 30 teams made picks. Well, 30 picks were made by teams. How's that? Last night. Cooper Flagg, no shock, goes number 1 overall to the Dallas Mavericks, who despite having just a 1.8% chance of getting the number 1 overall pick in the NBA draft lottery, got the number 1 overall pick in the draft lottery. They end up with Cooper Flagg. Dylan Harper goes second. He's a young guard out of Rutgers. VJ Edgecombe third to the 76ers, and that is where the Charlotte Hornets came on the clock for the first time. They elected to go with Con Knippel, the guard out of Duke, as the number 4 pick. Ace Bailey, who was the most interesting story, arguably, coming into this draft, did not want to go to Philly at number 3. He wanted to go to Washington at number 6 or New Orleans at number 7. Instead, the Utah Jazz say, yeah, it ain't up to you, dog. They take him at number 5. The Wiz end up with the guard out of Texas, Trey Johnson, at 6. Jeremiah Fierce heads down to New Orleans at pick number 7. Igor Demin, the guard out of BYU, a Russian native, ends up 8 to Brooklyn. Brooklyn had 5 picks last night. They took 4 guards. 4 guards, all guards. They are going to have, they're going to be an all-guard team next year. At number 9, hailing from the University of South Carolina, Colin Murray Boyles goes 9th overall to Toronto. I believe that he is the first Gamecock selected with the lottery pick. I read that last night. I did not have the opportunity to go confirm that. I believe some of you South Carolina fans may be able to clue me in on this. I know I'm just supposed to know because I'm a big smart boy. But I didn't take the time to go look this up. I believe Colin Murray Boyles is the first lottery draft selection for the South Carolina Gamecocks. He goes 9 overall to Toronto with the 10th pick. Kamal Malik goes to Houston. He'll team up with Kevin Durant. Some other notable moves last night. Some other notable news. I hope team up with Kevin Durant. No, scratch that. He will not, because I forgot they traded that to Phoenix. So he will actually be a Suns when it's all said and done. There were a lot of moves last night. Atlanta drafted Derek Queen. Remember Derek Queen? He's the one that hit the buzzer beater for Maryland, but also definitely didn't. Should have been a call. Should have been a travel call. They let it go because it was a super cool moment. Remember that? Derek Queen got drafted by Atlanta.
That was a gathering discussion, right?
Yeah, if I recall correctly.
I think so.
Either way, the point was he made a buzzer beater that everybody was buzzing the next day, and Rob Brown had to be a buzz kill by pointing out that bucket should not have counted. It was electrifying, and if I recall, I believe it was the first buzzer beater we had in the tournament.
You know, without that, would you know who he is? Would most people know who he is?
Most people know. Most people know. Because he was a borderline threat to be a lottery pick.
Yeah, but you say he played for Maryland?
Played for Maryland. That is correct. He was a center at Maryland, but he's 6'9". He's probably going to play more power forward. Atlanta drafted him, but they traded him to New Orleans. The Pelicans came up to get him. They sent the 22nd overall pick to Atlanta. They basically had a player swap there as Atlanta drafted Derek Queen at 9. Asa Newell from Georgia was drafted by the Pelicans at 23, but they swapped those two players in that spot. Atlanta also sent a trade pick to San Antonio at 14. They took Carter Bryant out of Arizona in that spot. Yang Hansen from China, a 7'2" Chinese player, is going to be on his way to Portland. He was drafted by Memphis, but was traded out there. Our first French player is Jean Beringer. He's from France, so you have to say it that way. He was drafted by Minnesota, was drafted to Minnesota in their pick that they got from Detroit via the New York Knicks. Walter Clayton Jr., the electric player out of the University of Florida, was drafted by Washington, but then was traded to Utah. So he will be teaming up out there in Utah with Ace Bailey. I actually kind of like that combo. Will it work out in Utah? We'll find out. So those are some of the big news. Again, Asa Newell ends up with the Hawks in the trade with New Orleans. Atlanta also selected Drake Powell out of North Carolina at number 22, but they traded him to Brooklyn for considerations. And that's kind of the highlights from last night's NBA draft. Round number 2 is tonight. We'll continue with some breakdown later on in the show, but we got to get to item number 2. The perfect season against the New York Mets is no more. The Metropolitans get the better of the Braves last night. 7-3 is your final. Didier Fuentes, the rookie pitcher who was electric his first time out, he got shocked last night. See what I did there? Because he was electric and then he got shocked. That's the opposite. That's just radio excellence for you, ladies and gentlemen. 3.1 innings, allowed 8 hits, 6 runs, all earned. Struck out just 1, gave up a pair of dongs last night. 1 to Soto, 1 to Mauricio for the New York Mets. The Bravos had just 6 hits in the contest. You got 1 from Acuna, 1 from Olsen, 1 from Baldwin. His was a big dong. Albies had 1, Verdugo had 1, and Nick Allen had 1. The problem was you had 2 ribbies from Ronald Acuna Jr. On a double. Nobody else was able to produce an RBI with the exception of Drake Baldwin's RBI off of his home run. The offense went back to sleep last night. The Mets rolled Clay Holmes out to the bump, 5 innings, 3 hits, 1 run. Cade to give up the Drake Baldwin dinger. That was really the only damage they were able to do with the starter. Listen, I said yesterday, I did not expect perfection. I expected them to, I hope, win 1 of the remaining 2. They do have 1 more tonight as the conclusion for a 4-gamer up in the Big Apple. I said and I will give them credit, even if they do not win tonight, even if they split this 4-gamer, that would end up being a record of 5-2 against the Mets in the first half. You can't be upset by that. That's the second-place team in the division. That's a team that, until a recent run of bad luck, was either in or tied with the Phillies for first in the division. If you would have told me 3 weeks ago that the Braves would end the first half 5-2 against the Mets, I'd have been happy with that even when the Braves were playing poor baseball. Actually, even more so when the Braves were playing poor baseball. If you'd have told me when I had actual hope and expectations at the beginning of the year that the Braves were going to finish the first half 5-2 against the Mets, I'd have been absolutely ecstatic about that. So, again, I'm not as upset about this L as I am some of the rest of them, but the Braves have, with a couple of exceptions, failed to bounce back from losses like this. Will they tonight? In the conclusion, we will find out, and we'll talk about that more later on in the show. Let's get to item number 3. I'm going to keep it a buck. This one I put on the list because of the drama. This one I put on the list because of the drama and because coaches are finally doing something that I've been saying for a while they need to do if they want accusations of tampering and perhaps actual tampering to stop. What have I said the whole time? Name bleeping names. If you're not willing to name a name, if you're not willing to tell us who it is that did the thing that you are accusing someone of doing, then there is no reason for the people doing the things you're accusing people of doing to stop doing the things. You have to put the names on the table. And we have started to see that happen to some degree. We told you earlier this week, the University of Maryland, nope, scratch that, Wisconsin, one of those colleges, I say their name funny. The University of Wisconsin has filed a lawsuit against the University of Miami, accusing them of tampering with a transfer portal player. Yesterday, the SEC got involved. Josh McCray is a running back, or I should say was a running back for Illinois. 609 yards, 10 touchdowns on 117 carries last year. One of the best players on that team. Josh McCray went into the transfer portal. Josh McCray is on his way to the University of Georgia. On the Triple Option podcast, in the middle of discussing the current running back room, head coach Brett Bielema said, and I quote, "We did lose a guy to Georgia. Somehow he found his way to the portal, and 12 hours after being in the portal, he was on a flight to Georgia. I don't know how that happened, but it's crazy." I wish Josh all the best. He took advantage of that opportunity. Of course, this is a big loss for Brett Bielema because Brett Bielema's offense at Illinois is largely ground-based, and this was the guy that was expected to be the feature of that next year. So I find this interesting because Brett Bielema did not outright say that Kirby Smart and the Georgia Bulldogs were tampering. They did not outright say, or he did not outright say, that Georgia made an inappropriate offer or had inappropriate contact with Josh McCray. But he did take the passive-aggressive route, saying, it's crazy. It's crazy. He got in the portal. We gave him the permission to transfer, and pretty much in the same day, dude was on a flight down to Athens. Now, I'm not saying they did anything wrong. I'm just saying what a remarkable coincidence. Now, I understand why he's not saying that. Number one is probably because he doesn't have proof that anything inappropriate happened. That's step one. He probably can't prove anything. And what you don't want to do is make an accusation of something that is, especially now with the College Sports Commission officially being off the ground, you don't want to make an accusation of something that is worthy of the old metaphorical banhammer if you can't prove that something worth the old metaphorical banhammer actually happened. Number two, my suspicion is going to be here that not only can he not prove it, but that you could theoretically say that Georgia is on a short list of teams that if they were to make an offer to a portal guys are going to go, hell yeah, I want to go play for Georgia. That's a championship contender. So unless they're getting offers from like Georgia and Ohio State and Texas and, LSU and Clemson or whatever, that if a kid like Josh McCray goes into the portal and that every when the portal opens, every D1 school in America has a team of dudes whose only job is to sit at the laptop and just keep pushing F5 on the portal registry to see as guys are officially entered into it. It would not shock me if Kirby had a dude sitting in front of a computer in Athens, refreshing the page, hitting F5 every 13 seconds, just looking at names that are popping up and going, Coach, Josh McCray, the leading rusher at Illinois, is in the portal. And Kirby would go, hit that man with an offer immediately. 12 hours is plenty of time for a team like a Georgia and Ohio State and Alabama, whatever, to see a kid's name in the portal, make the offer, and have the weight of program that anybody who gets an offer from them is going to say, that's obviously the one I'm taking. I'm obviously taking the offer from a team that is a contender, a heavy contender for the national championship this year. That's absolutely where I'm going to end up. So I think Bielema played this one intelligently because Georgia could absolutely make the argument of, we didn't touch the dude. We didn't talk to him. We didn't text him. We didn't call him. We didn't beep him. We didn't fax him. We didn't email him. We didn't smoke signal him. We didn't carrier pigeon him. We saw his name in the portal. We reached out. He said yes very quickly, right? It's kind of like when you break up with your lady and then you go on Facebook the next day and you see her at the bar with like an attractive feller and you're like, oh, she was obviously cheating on me. Not necessarily. She may have just went to the bar, gussied up a little bit, and got some attention and went, yeah, why not, right? Like, it doesn't mean something was happening there. So I think Brett Bielema in this spot is doing it in a way that kind of covers his own ass, protects him from taking any heat by accusing them of doing something, but by just saying, it's kind of the old conspiracy theory approach to something, right? Like, I'm not saying this is what happened, but like, isn't it weird, you guys? Isn't it weird? The interesting thing is, and obviously if he said anything, we all knew it was going to go to Georgia because that's where the kid transferred. But the fact that he was willing to say Georgia, to say the name, I think there's some heat there. Wonder how Shane Beamer feels about that. Because on one hand, I got to think Shane would be like, yeah, thanks for calling him out. And on the other hand, he'd be like, hey, I'd fist fight that guy in a Kroger parking lot. We'll see. All right, we'll talk more about this later on in the show. We've got a lot to get to. Rob Alonso and you, the Rob Brown Show's on the Fan Upstate. Chat's quiet today. Where are the people?
A lot of people on vacation. Creepy weather guy.
All right, guys, give me just a minute. We will be right back. Please don't go anywhere. So, Alex Caruso and, Alex Caruso has a podcast. Everybody's got a podcast. I guess from this point forward, I should just say on his podcast, so-and-so. But Alex Caruso has a podcast, two-time NBA champion, once with the Lakers, once now, obviously, with the Thunder. He had J-Dub, Jalen Williams, on, and they had a conversation that I really enjoyed yesterday. Now, it's the only segment of the pod that I heard, but it did pop up. Somebody sent it to me and said, "Rob, I think you're going to enjoy this." And I said, "Why?" And he said, because Caruso and J. Will had a conversation that I think will resonate with you. And I said, all right, send it to me. I'll give it a listen. And I did. I'm going to start with a clip from both Caruso and Jalen Williams. Now, Jalen is the one you're going to hear talking the most in this. You'll hear Caruso chime in. Then I'm going to play a clip that Caruso followed it up with. And I think it falls in line with a conversation that we have been having for a while on this radio program, both about basketball and about the state of sports media, which bothers me a lot. Not because, partially because I'm in it, but also because I'm a fan. Let me play you clip number one.
I think a lot of it is the national media. They don't be watching the games either, if I'm being honest, bro. Everybody's just kind of like waiting for, they're what drives it, I think, is like what I was going to say. Like, they drive the whole, whatever they push out is what people are going to respond to. So it's like, obviously, what they push out, that's what the fans are going to think. So like, if you take like Shea's, like the foul thing with him, nobody actually looks at the fact that there's like 8 or 9 people that
gets fouled all the time.
Yeah, he gets fouled.
And
He
call
obviously
it.
should go to free throw line more. He leads the NBA in drives, and we're like the lowest free throw shooting team in the NBA. And he's not even like, I think there's like 6 or 7 people ahead of him that shoot more free throws. But because the media doesn't like certain ways that he gets fouled, that becomes getting pushed as like,
dude, just if nobody
Watch
can
the
guard him,
games.
nobody can guard him. Like, it's not like if you can't do it. It's part of that too. Is like you can't call everyone, and we know that. But like,
it's also a skill, bro.
dude's getting fouled.
So they're talking about SGA, who caught the label of free throw merchant this year. And they had kind of two different takes there, one of which I know is going to resonate with the great one. The other one, which I think is a conversation that needs to be had. Jay Will starts by saying a lot of this is driven by the media, who I don't think watch the games anymore. And this is there's a phrase I have used on this program quite a bit, specifically about the NBA media. I think it's less prevalent in football. But I also think because there are so many fewer games in football and there's only one per week, by and large, only one per week for teams, it's a lot easier to watch everybody, or at least the big-time players, versus basketball. There's 30 teams playing 82 games a year. It's hard to watch everybody. And what ends up happening is a ton of regurgitated takes. People hear somebody say it, and then they just copy that take. Now, I can, even though I don't like it, I can excuse that for people out there with you guys, like out in the public. I can excuse that because the reality is if you are not paid to watch and discuss and debate in whatever sports, then yeah, you probably don't have the opportunity to put as much time as people who are paid to do that should, but often don't do. So I think you get a lot of regurgitated takes, but there's a second part to this conversation. And then I want to circle back around and address all of it in its entirety. I also think that there is a reason that there is a lot of regurgitated takes. And I'm going to go heel for the third time this week. It's kind of on us a little bit. It's kind of on us. There's a reason for that. And while he doesn't say it is the reason for it, Alex Caruso kind of explains what the reason is.
It just has become cool to not watch basketball. Like, it's all about like entertainment value. Like, that's just the clip farming, the looking for highlights instead of like the substance of the game. Like, I was thinking about this the other day. ESPN was on, and it was like was whatever, pick a talk show at any point in time during the day. Like, I was like, man, I miss Sports Center, when it was like the ticker on the side where it had each game coming up next, and it was just like a minute of highlights, and it was good 7-8 minutes of highlights commercial. And then it was like, when we come back, this is like, and then you finish with the top 10 at the top of the hour like that. We've gone away from that. And now it's like, what is the most entertaining?
What's the most relevant thing?
Eye-grabbing storyline from it. And unfortunately, to a lot of like the common fan base, that's what is capturing their attention rather than, like we said, really good basketball.
Yeah.
So Caruso, I think, just hit on what the problem is. And the problem is, to some degree, with us. And I'm including myself in this. I want you to know this is not a full-on heel turn. I'm putting it on me, too.
So what you're doing is you're going away from the blame of the media and taking it away from the media and putting it on the people.
What's the job of the media? What's their job?
Media are the storytellers of our time.
What's their job?
But they should report unbiased.
Fine. What's their job? No, not about bias. This isn't about bias. This isn't about bias at all. What is this about?
If you're going to take a heel turn, you might as well be angry. So I'm going to work on
I'm not
that.
angry.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Okay, I'm a little angry.
You are angry.
Here's the job of the media. The job of the media is to get views. And it's clicks on the internet, it's segments, it's views on segments on TV, it's whatever. It's to get your attention. And one of the things, and I've said this before, about political television, right, is that all of the channels have started to realize.
You're still talking about sports.
No, I'm talking about political television and radio right now, too.
And you're still talking about sports.
And I am talking about sports because it's following the same trajectory, right? There are two ways that you do it. Number one is you feed people information or disinformation that confirms their previously held belief. There's nothing more. I make the joke all the time about how when somebody who knows ball says something that I've already said, I play it as a pat on the back to myself. Self-validation, it feels good. We are creatures that love self-validation. It's an endorphin hit. And so there are people who you would like to think are just going to tell you, here's the facts. But they don't. They get on TV and they get on the radio and they don't give you the facts. They give you their facts, or not facts, disguised as facts, that confirm your previously held belief because you are going to stick around. Nobody wants to go watch a news outlet that is going to say, hey, you know that thing that you have a deeply held belief about? You're actually wrong, and here's the proof of that. Because we would rather be incorrect but feel like our belief is valid than
So
be
when
correct.
they're saying you're wrong, are they actually presenting facts, or are they giving their own opinion that you're wrong?
No. That's not what I'm saying here. What I'm saying is, if you believe X, it doesn't matter what X is. Could be political, could be religious, could be sports, could be literally any topic. If you believe X, by and large, most people will listen to an outlet that lie to them about what X is and that their belief on X is correct before they will go somewhere else that will give them actual data and information to prove that their belief about X is incorrect. People would rather be incorrect about the data and have their belief that X is correct upheld than go somewhere else and say, hey, everything you believe about X, that's all actually incorrect, and here's the truth. Sports is no different. The second part about that is our attention span as Americans is garbage. It just is. It's garbage. It's garbage. We have a stupid short attention span. You want to know how I know that?
You're generalizing.
No, I'm not. I'm absolutely not. You want to know how I can show you?
Absolutely
Lonzo, I'm not.
You can't speak for everyone. You
No,
can't
I
speak
can't.
about everyone. That means you're generalizing.
You're correct. I am generalizing.
You just said you weren't.
No, I am generalizing. 90% of America. Here's how I know that. YouTube has been around for 20 years now, 20 years plus at this point. YouTube, right now, has more people viewing YouTube shorts than videos. YouTube shorts are 90 seconds, maximum 90 seconds. Actually, I think YouTube shorts might be 60 seconds. I think it's Instagram is 90 seconds. More people are watching YouTube shorts. On YouTube, you can go right now and find full-length videos about anything you want. I watch 3+ hour science lectures regularly on YouTube because I'm a nerd, okay? more people are watching YouTube shorts. So you could go learn all the details about this thing that you want to learn about. More people are going, can you just give me that 90 seconds, please? I don't really have the time to learn about the thing. I'd like you to just hit the highlights and move on. More people are watching Instagram reels than actually go and interact with the feed and the videos that are posted over there. That is just the number. If a social media
Isn't
outlet,
that kind of what Instagram is for, though? I mean, it's not a long form thing. It's to watch pictures and watch short things. So
no, you're missing the point. More people are watching, even on a platform built for short content, are watching the shortest content that they can get. We are right now more about the short, quick, and what we like than we are about taking something in. So Caruso's point stands here, which is it is easier to go pull that one moment from a basketball game and post it to a YouTube short because more people are going to see that than the game. And so it is easier to sway people's opinions and get them to regurgitate beliefs. And if your job is to get people to click...
So he just called the media lazy.
No.
Yeah, he did.
No,
Absolutely did.
no,
He absolutely
no.
did, and you just confirmed it.
No, and you are
did.
so missing the point of what I'm trying to
am
say
not
here. And
missing
maybe
the
it's
point.
my fault. No, you are. The media's job is to get you to pay attention and to do whatever they need to do. It's not about lazy. It's about what you watch. So if I go over here and I put together a 10-minute highlight reel that actually gets into the guts of the game, and then I take the 2 or 3 highlights and make a 90-second clip, and I put them both out there, and the 90-second clip gets 1 million views, and the 10-minute full breakdown gets 2,000 views, what am I going to make? I'm going to make 90-second views. I'm going to make the one that 1 million people watched, not the one that 2,000 people watched. And if that's the way that this is going to work, then you can expect that that's the way that coverage is going to go. We'll break this down further later on. I got some more stuff that we need to play. Lulu Kesson at 8 o'clock. When we come back, I'll tell you Rashad moving to Mario. Well, I am going to talk about Mario, too. Coming up on The Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate. Gatekeeping. What do you mean? What do you mean by gatekeeping is the job of the media? I mean, first off, I think we have to define the media because. Oh, gotcha. Okay. The job of the media is to get you to click on their stuff, right? Like that's the job of the media. Some people do that by, like guys like Pete Thamel do it by giving you actual really good information that you can't get anywhere else. Some people do it by giving you hot takes. Am I right? Stephen A. Smith and Colin Cowherd and Paul Feinbaum and yada, yada, yada. Some people do it by giving you access to things that you can't get from anybody else. That's what Paul Feinbaum does as well as anybody. And some people do it by putting stuff out there that we know we consume. You know what? Give me just a second. I want to address this when I come back. Thanks for hanging out, guys. So, as somebody else who did a journalism in college, my degree is actually in journalism and broadcasting. The ethics of the job of journalism, if we are talking about reporters, I think one problem that we have to take into consideration in this conversation is that there is a difference between a journalist and an editorialist. An editorialist job is not to give you correct information. An editorialist job is to have an opinion. And they are not obligated. You'd like to think that they are, and especially when they worked for a supposed to be respectful outfit, you'd like to think that they would base their opinion on correct information, but there are scores of editorialists who do not. A reporter is ethically obligated to give you correct information and allow you to form your own opinions based on it. Too many people in sports are editorialists, not enough people are reporters. I would like to continue the conversation we were having in the last segment for just 1 second, and we will. But I do have to let you know a couple of things about our Thursday schedule here on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. Starting this week, Rashad Beard, who has traditionally joined us Thursdays at 8:40, will be moving to Fridays at 8:40 from this point forward. Rashad has had a some sort of job switch. Now he has to be in the office on Thursday mornings. So Rashad is going to begin this week, as in tomorrow, joining us on Friday morning. So if you're a Carolina Panther fan who has made it a point to tune in to hear what Rashad has to say on Thursdays, you will now have to tune in to what Rashad has to say on Fridays. The second thing that I need to let you know is you will recall that hatin' Mario Herron from the BetMGM Network joined us on Tuesday, and I told you he couldn't show up on Thursday, and you would find out later in the week. Well, now you find out why. If you did not listen to BetMGM Tonight last night, it is because hating ass Mario is returning to Chicago, Illinois for a new job opportunity. He is no longer with the network. Last night was his final night on BetMGM Tonight. Yesterday was his final day with the BetMGM Network. Before I continue, I very quickly wanted to say, even though actually, he may be listening because I know he streams the show sometimes in the AMs. Mario Herron has been a phenomenal kid. He's been a phenomenal partner. He's been a phenomenal co-host. He's been a phenomenal producer, and he's just a phenomenal dude. It has been more than a pleasure and a privilege to share the airwaves with Mario. He is going to be tremendously missed as both a coworker, a colleague, and a friend on the airwaves. I wish him nothing but the best. I know I have given Mario hell on his show, on our show, on this show over the years. But it was a very big brother, little brother kind of relationship. I love Mario dearly. He is one of my favorite people that I have ever had the privilege and the pleasure of working with. The kid attacked every day, every show, did it the right way, cared about the product that he was putting on the air, cared about the entertainment value, cared about the product. And I can tell you, as somebody who's been in this game for a very long time, that is far less common than I wish I could say that it is. So Tuesday was Mario's final appearance. We could not say it at the time because they could not say it on the network yet at the time, and that absolutely broke my heart because I wanted to give him a proper send-off here on the show, and we may invite him back once he gets back to Chicago and gets set up, but yesterday could not come on because he had to set up for the final show, and he is getting on a big old jet airliner today. Before I move on, I have to tell you this great one because I think I don't know if you'll find it funny or mean or maybe a little bit of both.
Well, probably going to be mean, but go ahead.
Oh, it was definitely mean, but it was also funny as hell. So yesterday, Cody Decker and I jumped on BetMGM Tonight to surprise Mario. Mario didn't know we were coming on. We were the first show that he was given a full-time production role on, was Bet for the Cycle way back in the day. We were the first full-time host that Mario, or first big show that Mario got an official chair on. And so the producers of the show last night called Deck and I, and they were like, yo, we want you guys to come on and have one more Roast O Mario segment before he leaves. And I was like, yeah, no, for sure, absolutely, let's do it. So I jumped on the video. I kept the camera off and the mic off to kind of surprise Mario when I got on the air. And so when I got on the air, Mario didn't know we were coming on the show. And Mario said to me, I'm going to keep it a buck, Rob. I half expected that you were going to show up in the studio today. And I said, oh, you think you're off the hook for the ass tattoo, don't you? You think you're off the hook for it. And then in just a moment of brilliance, I said, you'll notice, Mario, that down on the little bottom of the screen there, it says Rob Brown and Cody Decker joined the show. You'll notice it's only me. Would you do me a favor and would you look to that door right over there you're sitting next to? Because it's about to open. And two very special people, one an artist, is about to walk through. Mario sunk in his chair and his face went white because he thought that Deck and a tattoo artist were about to kick open the door and give him his butt tattoo on the... He wasn't, and he didn't, because Deck's in LA on vacation right now. I convinced Mario that we were about to WWE, by God, that's Cody Decker's music, him, to give him a tattoo on his butt on the last day of the show. And he believed it for just a second. This kid went ghost white and deathly silent on the radio, waiting for Deck and a tattoo artist to bust through the door. Ryan Horvat and I almost had to end the segment because we could not stop laughing.
Oh, that's great. That is great.
Yeah.
It is mean. You're right. But it's radio. So, I mean, as far as that goes, that's funny.
I had him convinced that Deck wasn't on. And the reason was Deck couldn't get his computer working, so he was just late and had to call in. But because Deck didn't come on and it said Rob Brown and Cody Decker joined the show, I convinced Mario Deck was about to kick open that door with the tattoo artist to get him. And he believed it. Oh, it was fantastic. It was a rib, man. All right. I would like to pick up on a conversation that we were having in the last segment. We were talking about the comments of Alex Caruso and Jalen Williams about the media. And Lonzo, I did not effectively, I'll take the blame, communicate my point correctly to him. I pointed out that in 2025, unfortunately, and this is true of just about everybody in the media world. And before I get to where I was going there, I do think it is very important to start the conversation by saying there is a difference between a journalist and an editorialist. There is a difference. One is to provide news, data, information, facts. The other is to provide opinions and is under no obligation to be honest with you. And most people in the sports world nowadays, most people in the sports world are editorialists. I am an editorialist. Now, there are times when I act as a journalist. When I go to SEC Media Days here in 3 weeks, I will be playing the role of both. When I am at the press conferences and doing the interviews and all that, I will be serving in the role of journalist. My job in those few hours will be to hit you on social media or on the show the next day and say, Greg Sankey said that, and he gave this number. And then my job will be to go investigate that number to find out if that number is accurate, if the context that Greg Sankey gave us that number is accurate, what that means to the SEC. Then I will switch to the role of editorialist and say, my opinion on this is that blank, XYZ, whatever. When we talk about guys like Coward, Stephen A. Smith, whatever, those are editorialists. They are under no ethical obligation to give you correct data or information. They are under no ethical obligation to tell you the truth. They are under no ethical obligation to give you an opinion based on fact. Hell, they're under no ethical obligation to watch games. They could just make it all up.
They could just play solitaire.
They could sit in a chair at the NBA Finals and play solitaire. I don't know what Looney Tune clown would do that.
Sounds made up.
Yeah. That sounds like fake news to me. But they are under no obligation to tell you the truth. They are just under an obligation to give you an opinion, and it is up to you to decide, am I entertained by this, and do I take this opinion seriously? That is it. So, the problem is that for these major corporations, news outlets, and I'm talking about them for news, I'm talking about them from your local TV station all the way on up to the big MSM, mainstream media. Their responsibility Welcome to the world of late-stage capitalism. Let's get philosophical up in this bad boy. Their obligation is to their shareholders.
Late stage as an ending?
No, as
So
in
you're saying the country is over and all things are done and run out in the street naked and do whatever you want because
No.
it's
that is
the
not
end
what
of
I'm
the
saying.
world? Okay.
That is
All
not
right.
what I'm saying.
All right, you need to make yourself more clear.
Late stage capitalism is a philosophy, a belief that the system is designed to make money, and we have entered the stage where making money is more important than anything. It is more important than truth. It is more important than justice. It is more important than anything else. At the end of the day, in late stage capitalism, making money means more than anything. It makes money. It means more than the health and well-being and safety of people. It means more than making sure everybody has an opportunity to succeed. All that matters. The number one priority is money making. And I do believe that a large chunk of, if not exclusively, that's where we are in news. It is. We are at the late stage capitalism era where it is okay to openly lie about news as long as it's making you money. And the reason it makes money is because, as I said in the last segment, people would rather have their beliefs confirmed by incorrect information than have their beliefs challenged and perhaps proven wrong by correct information. That's just what we do as people. It is a well-known logical bias that has to be acknowledged and dealt with. So people would rather watch a 90-second clip because of the short attention span, especially if that 90-second clip confirms some sort of belief that they have. I will tell you one that I had to deal with yesterday. Based on the season the Oklahoma City Thunder had and my observations of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, as somebody that I am willing to bet watched more NBA basketball this year than probably 90% plus of the people listening to this show, I had absolutely subscribed to the SGA is a free throw merchant belief. And then yesterday, not just by Caruso and by J. Will, but by a number of folks yesterday, I had a couple of numbers thrown in my face that I had not heard before. Number one, over the past 5 seasons, in all 5 seasons, SGA had more drives to the basket than any player in the NBA. More than LeBron, more than Giannis, more than Nikola, more than Ant. He had more drives to the bucket than any player. So it would make sense then he has more fouls than any player because fouls are frequently, most often committed against guys who are driving to the rack. This is why you kids out there listening, take Uncle Rob's advice. I don't care what position you play, learn how to get to the rack. That's where you get fouled. That's where you go to the stripe. The second bit of information that came out alongside that was this. SGA averaged this year 8.8 free throws per game. So just under 9. Y'all think Michael Jordan was a tough player? He wasn't a free throw merchant, right? Michael Jordan shot 12 free throws a game over his career. Kobe Bryant. Was Kobe a free throw merchant? Nobody accuses Kobe Bryant of being a free throw merchant, right? Kobe Bryant shot 10.1 free throws per game. The greats of the game. And again, you do have to put the variables in, one of them being that there are the superstar rules, the Jordan rules. But Jordan and Kobe, yes, GOATs. Yes, they had the superstar rules in front of them. Those guys shot more free throws per game than SGA. So, were they free throw merchants? I've never heard them accused of that. Yesterday, when I heard these numbers, I went back and really analyzed them. And I do think there are some variables in the equation. I do think there are some things. I do think SGA is a bit of a flopper. But as I've also said, I don't think that flopping to earn free throws, if you're getting the calls, I don't think flopping to earn a free throw is any worse than throwing yourself on the ground to take a charge. But we put respect on guys who take charges, right? That's a glue guy willing to put his body on the line, take a charge. How's that any worse than a guy taking a hit on the arm and going flying through the air if that's the only way he's going to get the call? That's how the game is played. So I had my opinion on SGA change. Do I think he's a flopper? Yes. Do I think that's inherently bad? As I am a proponent of and fan of guys who are willing to put ass on the deck to take a charge, no, I can't say it's any worse than that. And when you were telling me that SGA is shooting a full free throw and a half fewer than Kobe Bryant did over the course of his career, and a full 4 free throws per game fewer than Michael Jordan, and I have, and I don't think you have either, ever labeled either one of those guys a free throw merchant, then I think at that point, I had to change my opinion on that. And it happened after the season. I wish it didn't. I wish this would have happened before the NBA Finals. Happened after. I have a new appreciation for SGA because of that. The point here is that even I, somebody who prides himself on go dig it up yourself, go find the numbers, go find the information, go find the data, I do not believe it is correct to believe anything that you yourself have not proven and verified. Now, you may do that by looking at experts and having them provide the data and the research method they got there and yada, 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 going way off the deep end here. But I am a full believer in the philosophy of I don't believe anything you say to me that cannot be proven to me, with like dumb exceptions that make funny radio bits or whatever, right? So when when Alex Caruso and when Jay Will say that they believe a lot of people in the higher up media don't watch the games anymore, and they provide those numbers as their evidence of it, and I went and confirmed those numbers, that's pretty good reason to believe that the folks who have, and again, I'm one of them. I am punching myself in the face here. The people who have run with certain narratives are frequently falling into a trap of someone else said this, that person is in a role of a position of authority, a position of accomplishment, whatever. So therefore, I trust what they have to say. And when you fall into that trap of just assuming that someone in a position of trust and authority is automatically telling you the truth, no matter what position of trust and authority they're in, that's when you get yourself into trouble. And I think that's what's happened in the sports world. You combine that, when you combine that with the fact that we as a country have developed this remarkably short attention span, we end up in the world that we're in now. Because, you know, Caruso said there, I miss the days of ESPN where you get on and there was a minute and a half, 2 minutes, full game highlights of every game. And they would tell you, coming up next to this game, then that game, and then at the end of the hour, top 10, and then we reset it and talk about every game. And now it's what? Now what you pop on, they show you one SGA highlight. You get 2 minutes of the anchors going, oh, that guy's a free throw merchant, or, oh, this guy's the GOAT. And no gray area, no nuance in the middle. And collectively, our coverage of sports has gone downhill because of it. I believe every word of that. I also believe every word that Lonzo's about to tell you in the Sports Flash.
Including that was all directed at Stephen A. Smith. That's what that whole thing was about.
Not wrong.
The Atlanta Braves' perfection against the Mets came to a conclusion last night with a 7-3 loss to New York. Rookie Didier Fuentes made his second big league start but got hammered, giving up 8 hits and 6 runs in 3.1 innings, striking out just one. The Braves collected 6 hits, including Drake Baldwin's 9th homer of the year, but went 1 for 6 with runners in scoring position. Charlotte Hornets selected Dukes Knippel with the 4th overall selection, a 6'5" wing player with a great shot and aggressive defense. Charlotte also traded center Mark Williams to Phoenix in return for the number 29 pick and first rounder in 2029, as well as center Vasily Micic. The Hornets drafted UConn's Liam McNeely with the pick. South Carolina's Colin Murray Boyles is heading to Canada, selected 9th overall by the Toronto Raptors. Didn't appear to be happy about it.
Thursday evenings, March 13th through August 29th. Visit GreenvilleEvents.com for more info. That's GreenvilleEvents.com.
Greenville County Animal Care is the only shelter in Greenville County that accepts animals regardless of their condition, behavior, or circumstances. Help us help them so we can continue giving our community's homeless animals the quality care they need. GreenvillePets.org.
Diabetes, high blood pressure, anxiety meds, everyone's on them. If you're a 50-year-old male, maybe a bit porky, and you may even have type 2 diabetes, $1 million of term insurance may only cost you about $200 a month. Call Term Provider. Speak with Big Lou at 800-700-6898. Big Lou will find a term life policy for you even if you have type 2 diabetes, are overweight, or have high blood pressure. Term Provider has helped thousands of people like you who think they can't afford term life insurance. To buy $1 million of affordable term life for you.
Gonna take us off for just a second to get Lulu on the phone, guys. Y'all stay right there. BRB. Long neck,
No!
cold beer,
Stop.
never broke my heart.
Stop.
Like diamond rings and football teams have torn this
I'd rather hear you
apart.
defend the media endlessly than hear you sing anything
Like
country.
a neon dream, it just dawned on me. The bars in this
Thank you,
guitar
headphones.
and long neck, ice cold beer never broke my heart.
Can you dig it?
I can indeed dig it. Welcome back, people. The Rob Brown Show is on your radio. It is the Fan Upstate. Rob Brown, the great one, Lonzo, and now joining us on the phones as she does every Thursday at 8 a.m. Although we do have a well-earned vacation coming up for our next guest. She covers the South Carolina Gamecock Athletic Department for the Greenville News. The lovely Lulu Kesson joining us here on the show. And Lulu, before we get into it, I do have to tell you, in a way that's going to sound weird, and I don't intend it to. I put up an Instagram story the other day about Brad Marchand and how I'm really mad that I like Brad now because since he got down to Florida, he's just been a dude, and it's been fun to watch. I hated Boston Brad. I love Florida Brad, and I got a DM from Mrs. Mama Lulu Kesson, who I now know is a Bruins fan, who was up in her feelings about Brad getting a ring not in Boston, just so you know where I'm coming from.
Oh, my goodness. I had no idea. Wait, that's so funny. Yeah, she is way more of a Bruins fan than I am. I credit her for that. She grew up sort of in a hockey family. Wait, that's so funny. Yeah, a lot of my friends, a lot of people here aren't over the Brad trade. I don't know if it's just because it happened when I was in the height of basketball season and the height of work, but like I definitely got over it a lot quicker than the average Boston fan. She
responded to my Instagram story, and basically was like, I am still livid over this. Not only did he leave us, but he leaves us and immediately gets a ring. I'm relatively sure that if Mama Kessin had the ability to kick down the doors to the Bruins HQ, that team's winning like 10 straight rings if she takes over. She was heated. It was fantastic.
Yeah, wait, that's hilarious. I love her passion.
It's the best. Lulu Kessin from the Greenville News joining us here on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. Like, ordinarily, my job is to jump right into the Gamecock stuff, but how could I not lead off with that? All right, Lulu Kessin, let's get into some stuff. And I want to ask you a couple of Gamecock adjacent stories. I will start with what happened last night in the WNBA. How about Asia Wilson, the fastest player in WNBA history to get to 5,000 points? She does it faster than Breanna Stewart. She does it faster than Diana Taurasi. And if she's got the longevity in her, it also sets her up to potentially, and I think almost destiny, it feels like at this point, if everything works out right, become the all-time WNBA leading scorer. Talk to me a little bit about what that young lady has accomplished in the dub. Talk to me a little bit about how you think maybe Dawn Staley and her time at South Carolina prepared her to become one of the GOAT candidates in the W.
Yeah, and the most impressive thing to me is the timing of when she did it, only because she was just injured. She was, in concussion protocol. Like, she individually is still putting up numbers this year, but the Aces are really struggling. So it sort of felt like, from a team perspective, that last night could potentially be a look in the future and almost like a step in the right direction for the Aces, because last year it genuinely felt like every other game Asia was breaking a record. And I'm saying that like as obviously as a compliment, not as like another one. And the Aces sort of led, she led the Aces, and they really kind of like built off that energy. And so I'm hoping for their sake that moving forward, having this individual accomplishment be so huge kind of in this middle season rough patch timing wise, like they can build off of that. To answer your question, I think that Dawn will always recognize that Asia came to South Carolina with talent, but I think Asia will also always credit Dawn for taking that talent and getting her pro ready. It's so hard to be good as a WNBA rookie, and not a lot of people are. And Asia was able to be so dominant from year one, and that's all South Carolina and Staley's preparation. And I think that awards like this aren't possible if you don't start your career in, a productive fashion. And it's impressive to see that in a year where Dawn has 11 players currently playing in the WNBA, which is still only third because Notre Dame has 12 and UConn has, I believe, 14 or 16, one of the two. But regardless, it's what Dawn specifically took the time to do. So much of her coaching career has been in the WNBA because she coached at Temple while playing. And so she's just wanted from day one coming to South Carolina to get people pro ready. And Asia was sort of that shining star from the jump that wanted to really be polished by the time she got into the league.
One of the things that, and one of the reasons that I think South Carolina fans should care about that story is I think with the W growing exponentially in popularity, Lulu Kessin, in terms of growing with the celebrity, in terms of it growing financially, I mean, there's a long way to go, but the attention to go is starting to not form, but like really take shape. If she is capable, Dawn Staley, of continuing to send Aaliyah Bostons and to send Asia Wilson, and if Chloe Kitts ends up there and she's able to translate, if Camila Cardoso, who is headed down to Brazil to play for the Brazilian national team in a FIBA tournament, if she's able to keep the momentum going, if you keep cranking out WNBA players at a higher rate than a UConn, at a higher rate than some of these other great women's team, Tennessee, over the years, that becomes a major recruiting piece, because players who believe going into college that I've got WNBA talent in me, she is now showing I'll unlock it. You just got to come here and play. That's a fantastic opportunity for a recruiting tool for Dawn Staley as well.
Absolutely. I just talked to a parent of a 4-star or a 5-star recruit, that has South Carolina in their top 4 schools. And a lot of what he said, and then a lot of what his daughter has said publicly, is just basically about the fact that they know that there's another level of sort of readiness that she'll get going to South Carolina that she isn't necessarily guaranteed to get at other schools, just because Dawn has not only the connections, but like you said, the tools and the ability to get people, prepared for the WNBA. And it's a really attractive kind of quality to possess, even for someone who's maybe on the fence about it. And then obviously definitely for somebody who wants to go into college, and immediately make an impact in the WNBA.
All right, let's talk about the other side. The NBA draft last night. Colin Murray-Boyles selected number 9, headed up to Canada to go play for the Raptors. There's 2 aspects of that I want to talk about. One of them was the reaction Colin Murray-Boyles had. A lot of people thought that he very clearly muttered the F word under his breath, kind of looked like he was staring down at the floor. A lot of people were saying, he really didn't want to go to Toronto, but you had a quote up on your Twitter last night that he said he felt the exact opposite. What did you think about the draft last night for him? I believe he is the first men's Gamecock player selected in the lottery, going to Toronto, and the fact that, speak of the devil, Chloe Kitts was up there supporting him on NBA draft night, which I thought was kind of dope.
Yeah, I would say this even if this wasn't a player that, I know is a great person, and that I know, I personally say the F word quite literally for every occasion. And I very much saw that right away and took it as a, I'm in disbelief, that's crazy type of curse. Obviously, it's one of those moments where you're not really prepared for a camera to be in your face, it following you from after you hear, a big moment. Yeah, it's, a classic rookie mistake in that regard. But I very much believe him when he was it was not me mad. I was going to Toronto. I do know he had said he worked out with Toronto before. I think if anything, it was pure shock and emotion. And he said it delayed too. I think a lot of people really took and run with it. And in some ways I understand it's Twitter. It's almost unavoidable to have people think logically about something. But at the same time, he cleared the air, I think, in the press conference. But he's the second highest, draft pick ever in South Carolina history because of a 1972 number 8 overall pick, Tom Riker. But to look at what South Carolina's men's program has and hasn't done in the last even 5 years, it's incredibly impressive that Colin came in and was able to make such an impact in 2 years. And I think that he does have a really great future ahead of him. I know that there's some shooting concerns about maybe his range and things like that, but every scout that wrote about him just would not stop talking about his defensive abilities. And, that's something to really kind of give a lot of credit, individual credit, but also program credit to. And I'm curious to sort of see what, life in Toronto is like for him. Obviously, Chloe was there, and I'm sure there's a distance factor involved in a lot of it too now. But at the same time, hey, Toronto has a WNBA team in the 2026 draft. So some GMs might see a really great opportunity to reconnect some lovebirds with a draft pick.
Love that. Love that. Lulu Keston from the Greenville News joining us here on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. Lulu, I'd like to go back in time a couple of weeks to the interview that showed up from Lenora Sellers' dad, Nora Sellers, because the conversation kind of got commandeered and really forced on us about the alleged offer of $8 million to transfer and his decision to stay and all that. But you had an article on GreenvilleOnline.com that I just got the opportunity to read yesterday when I was getting prepped for today. And it is full of compliments and takes about Lenora Sellers from people that are big in his life. Spencer Rattler, now a New Orleans Saint. Shane Bieber, the head coach. Dow Loggins, his OC, et cetera, et cetera. Talk to me a little bit about, now that we can kind of put that transfer offer to bed, what else did you take out of that article since then and the conversations you've had with some of these other presences in his life? And where are you about this guy now that he has started to really gain a lot of national discussion as potentially a Heisman finalist?
I think that last year it was constantly hearing like, oh, nothing really phases Lenoris. He's just going to stay calm, cool, collected, like, no moments too big, no moments too small. And Lenoris kind of said, I have to be, can't get too high, can't get too low, can't really put a lot of emotions in it. And at first I was sort of like, okay, like how is that actually going to translate? Because in some ways a quarterback needs the ability to be the voice that's sort of hyping everyone up in a big moment. Sometimes it's okay that they don't say anything in a bad moment, but I was sort of like, how much is this going to stick as his role grows? And it's incredibly impressive that he's sort of managed from, my perspective and what I've been told and what I talk to people about, that he's able to kind of step into the spotlight now, but has a really good idea of what to get emotional about. And that isn't, being talked about for a Heisman. That isn't being talked about as a draft pick. That is, we have a really great team. We have a really great group of young receivers. We have a really great offense. How can I ensure that as a leader, as QB1, I am instilling my confidence vocally in them, so they feel as though that they have not just my best physical effort, but my best mental effort. And I think that talking to Shane recently, kind of being like, well, like, has he, is he still quiet? And he's like, yes and no. Like, I've seen him get on receivers at practice in ways that he wouldn't last year. And so I think that there's been a lot of kind of talk about Lenoris in the sense of, oh, he, other offers, things like that. Oh, he's decided to stay. But to me, I'm not surprised, only because he's shown a really good ability to kind of pick out the best information. And that's not something every college kid can do in a lot of different even life situations. And I think that him choosing to stay was just another example of him really contextualizing a lot of things in his life and recognizing what's actually going to be productive, what's just outside noise. And I think he understands how his actions affect other people, which is just another thing that's sort of rare to see at his age. I mean, he's, I think, barely 20, maybe just turned 20, I think 2 days ago. So I loved writing that article really early on, because I think that although it was hard to see maybe some of the pockets of the football stuff, that they were talking about, a lot of the mental components were there from day one, I felt like.
Do you think that, Lulu Kesson, Lenoris Sellers is prepared? I mean, I know he had the game against Clemson last year, and what he did in the fourth quarter of that game down the stretch to get Carolina where they needed to be to get the dub, that was a big-time pressure moment from a kid who really kind of got thrown into the cooker in that spot. Do you think that moment, do you think this offseason has prepared him, and do you think he is ready to handle the pressure of, let's keep it a buck, heightened expectations for the football team this year, playoff hope from South Carolina fans this year, and Heisman hopeful discussion going on around him? Do you feel like what he went through last year has prepared him to handle the weight of the moment that will be upon him when the season kicks off here in 70 whatever days it is?
I do. I honestly do. And I'm not trying to point fingers or take pressure off Lenoris, but I think I'm more nervous about his the new sort of connection with his new OC more than anything. I think that obviously with Dowell leaving, and I know that Mike was a part of the program last year, but I'm a little bit like, ooh, that's something that I'm going to have to see a lot of football to trust, just because of the way that kind of the Citrus Bowl played out. But I do think that Lenoris has the ability to, I'm going to stick to my word. I do think that he can, and that he will handle the expectations of this season. And there are a lot of them, and there are a lot of team-related and individual, but I do think he can.
Fair enough. Real quick, we did get a text there we got a crossover question here. Buckeye Mike, who wanted to see if you had any commentary on Air Nolan. How's he doing? Is he involved? Where is he at? Do we have any update on what the transfer from Ohio State has been? Will we see him on the field at all this year in any capacity?
It's interesting because Shane seems really stuck on Luke Doty being QB2 right now. And I think that regardless of it's weird. Like, I understand why Luke Doty would, and he's obviously incredibly experienced, but I don't think that we're necessarily going to see a ton of Aaron Noland, and I think that might be to his benefit, only because coming into this program and obviously being on the younger side, you sort of need that extra time, and I think that he's a player based on the spring game that I don't want to be like he could use the time, but I think that it will be to his benefit not having the pressure of being Lenoris's backup from the moment that he gets into this program.
Lulu Kesson covers the South Carolina Gamecock Athletic Department for the Greenville News, kind enough to join us on Thursdays at 8 a.m. to break it all down. Lulu, I appreciate it. You're the best. Do me a favor. Call your mom. Tell her chill out. I'm sure everything's going to be okay in Beantown, right?
I will. And I forgot to mention that a 4-star recruit is announcing his decision at 11 a.m. Desmond Green, he's from South Carolina, closer to like the Charleston area, I believe. And South Carolina's in one of his top schools. So be on the lookout for that at 11, couple hours.
See, look at it. I'm trying to make a call your mom, and Lulu's like, wait, dummy, we got more stuff to talk about here. She's the best.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
Nope.
I'm so sorry.
Nope.
I'll talk to my mom, I promise.
Perfect. Lulu Kesson for the Greenville News. Appreciate you. As always, we'll talk to you next week. We got to run to a break. We are back after this on The Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. Oh, man.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
Chuck McDowell here again. Over the years, I've seen way too many timeshare exit companies pop up, take folks' money, and disappear. I just saw an ad from an exit company started by a couple of bozos that used to work for me. My advice, don't hire bozos out there. Want out of your timeshare? I'll send you our free timeshare exit info kit explaining your options for cancellation.
Call Wesley for your free kit. 800-761-0000. 800-761-0000. Paid for by Wesley Financial Group. Injured? Just call Doin Law Firm. 864-888-8888.
Hey, Sean Hannity here to tell you about American-made windows of the Upstate. Now, they're a locally owned company. I let Don and Pam show you how to save money on one of the best investments you'll ever make for your home. High utility bills, rotting window sills, moisture between panes, rooms that are too hot or too cold to even sit in. That's all signs that you need new windows, so make sure to get yours from American-made windows of the Upstate. You can find them online at AmericanMadeWindowsUpstate.com. That's AmericanMadeWindowsUpstate.com. The best windows are American-made.
You're into your DSP. It's good season. Where do you build a campaign? How do you report? Targeting's vague, CTV's tacked on and overpriced. Then you find Viant. Setup? Just a chat prompt. AI does the rest. Targeting? People-based and precise across premium publishers. Measurement? Transparent. Outcome-driven. And CTV? We've led since streaming meant something. Viant is the DSP that actually gets advertising. Still trading on a desk? Visit Viant.ai to unlock real results today.
Another checkup? Why are so many people getting puppies?
Seeing something on Twitter that I think's pretty interesting. Well, a couple things, but the last one for sure.
She needs to find extra vet techs to get those pups some extra love.
I saw the Tyrese thing. That's awesome.
Indeed you do. When you sponsor a
I don't know if you consider breaking news or not, but you saw the thing about Jason Light and what's call it? Why am I forgetting his Todd Bowles? Yeah. I'm looking at them. They both have got contract extensions.
Thanks again to Lulu Kesson for joining us here on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. Appreciate her time as always. Let's get some sound. We ordinarily do the audio blitz in the 8 o'clock segment, but on Thursdays, Lulu joins us, so we'll get into some other spots here. I have got a couple of different bits of sound, but there's some predominantly that I want to play from the Oklahoma City Thunder celebration earlier this week, 2 days ago. The OKC Thunder held their championship parade. It was interesting because it being Oklahoma City, not an enormous major metropolitan market, and it being in the middle of the day on a work day, which I didn't really understand that decision at all. It was not super well attended. And the big problem that I had with it was the way that people were talking about it. They're like, oh, is this it? Is this all you could? And it's like, guys, it's at noon on a Tuesday. Like, what do you expect? That's kind of what happens when you put events at noon on a Tuesday. The issue I had with it.
Well, but, other places like Philadelphia or Kansas City, they let kids out of school or whatever, depending on what sport it is. And so I don't know.
Yeah, but those are also cities with 4 to 5 times the
You're
population.
saying it's on
of
a Tuesday, but it's also summer. So
again, don't disagree. But just because you got kids that are out of school don't mean you ain't got to go to work. And when you have 4 times the people, it's unsurprising that 4 times the people show up to an event. That doesn't matter whether the event is a Tiddlywinks tournament or an NBA championship parade. If your population is 2.5 million versus a city whose population is like 750,000, like my point here is don't bag on OKC because their parade didn't look like the same parade that the Panthers threw in Miami, right? Like, of course, it's going to be a little bit different. But there are some funny spots out of it that I genuinely enjoyed. I would like to start with my guy, Jalen Williams, who is like, dude, he's entertaining. All right. Young cat, just freshly in the league, just turned 21 years of age, which meant that J-Dub, his first beer, according to J-Dub, but as somebody who recalls very vividly his first beer, the face that J-Dub made when he tried his first beer the night of the NBA championship was definitely the old bitter beer face, this is my first taste of a brewski face. He was on a podcast the next day talking about that celly.
Yesterday was my first time drinking ever. Like, I never had a drink up until that point. So I drank a little bit. I had a couple shots, champagne, I had beer. It was all disgusting. I'm going to stick to Shirley Temples.
Now, Rob Brown's a fan of Shirley Temples. I'm not mad about that. Rob Brown's also a fan of maybe a little vodka in a Shirley Temple. Yeah, dress it up a little bit. I get it.
But that kind of defeats the purpose, doesn't it?
No, because it still tastes like a Shirley Temple.
I thought a Shirley Temple was supposed to be a non-alcoholic drink.
No, a Shirley Temple is just a drink that is traditionally made non-alcoholic, but any beverage you can add alcohol to and still have the taste of the OG beverage, but have yourself a nice little cocktail.
Turning how the sentence is said doesn't make it different. It's the alternative to drinking usually.
No, so
you defile it by putting something
right.
in
The
it.
claim there is
you defeat the purpose of the drink by doing what you did.
The purpose of that drink or any drink is to enjoy the drink. That's the purpose of a drink. Anything you drink is to either get nourishment or enjoy it. That's it. I enjoy the Shirley Temple
or
still.
so you don't die because, water's essential.
That's what I just said. Get nourishment or enjoy the drink. But blah, 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 blah. I want to play you some audio from literally the next day. Literally at the conclusion of the OKC parade. They were parading through the streets of Oklahoma City down to the arena where they were holding their in-arena celebration. Here's some audio that was picked up as J-Dub was leaving the bus and heading into the arena.
Before you get on that bus, how you feeling? Feel good. Feel loose. That's all I got.
If you couldn't make out what happened there, J-Dub was walking into the arena, and the reporter was like, yo, before you go in there, one question, how you feeling? And J-Dub, if you're not watching the stream, this is why you should. Sometimes you get some dramatic acting. J-Dub, as he's walking, and the guy calls his name, Zoe, he's got the goggles on. He's holding a bottle of champagne. The guy calls him, and he goes, and the guy goes, how you feeling? He goes, I feel loose. That's all I got. My man went from, ew, beer and vodka and tequila and champagne are gross, to, I'm feeling loose, man, in a 24-hour run. J-Dub, welcome to the party.
Yeah, what a betrayer.
Welcome to the party.
What a betrayer. I mean, you waited all this time and then you did it then? Why? You succumbed to your peers and what they wanted you to do, and thought you were more of a stand-up guy than
Oh no! If you drink, you're a bad person.
you are. If you went your entire life and didn't do it, then suddenly
He
did
just
it
turned
because
21.
other people
He
are.
just turned legal.
You did.
Under.
By the way, you never said that once till now.
That he just turned 21?
Yeah,
I literally said it in the lead up to that clip.
I don't think you
I
did.
literally said he's a young cat. He just turned 21. That's why he had his first drink.
Yeah. Okay, if you did, then you're proving your point about the attention span of Americans. But I don't believe you said that.
I 1,000% did. Good on J-Dub for feeling loose. That's all I got. Love it. Hey, you know who else was having themselves a really good time? Chet Holmgren, who grabbed a mic too.
For believing in me enough to bring me here in the first place. Because without them, I'm never even here. All right, let me lock in.
Let me tell you, the phrase, let me lock in, is said exclusively by one group of people. It is people who are in a brain state that is being chemically altered and are having to accomplish a task. Hang on. Let me lock in.
This clip and probably further clips brought to you by AA. Some of them should actually go there.
It turns out you can indeed get drunk, have a good time, and not have it be a problem.
Also, I am curious about this because it's a controlled environment, but why are parades, why are you allowed to open carry? Why are you allowed to be drunken and disorderly and not be arrested? By the way, this is a legitimate question. Why? I'd never really thought about this before, but all these things that these athletes are getting away with, if the average person like Rob Brown's out there doing it, he going to jail.
So there's a couple of things here. I actually know the answer to this. Number one, when you get a parade permit, special exemptions come with that permit. You can get a special exemption that allows people involved in the parade, or for more people at the parade, to allow to drink. I can give you the example. I can't roll around downtown Greenville with a brewski, but when they do Friday nights or Downtown Alive, I can do that because they have an exemption for that. So with these parades, they give an exemption where you're allowed to have some boozy pops outside.
Only within a certain area, right? So if you go outside of that area.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Right.
So it would be in this case like part of the parade route. And I don't know, like in New Orleans, you are absolutely allowed to be like, there's no anti-booze carrying law in New Orleans. You can just walk around with a drink.
There's no open carry law.
Correct. You can just take a drink. In fact, in New Orleans, bars are famous.
I know that sounds like I'm talking about guns, but I'm talking about alcohol.
In New Orleans, you can very famously, whenever you leave a bar, get what is called a go cup.
Open container. That's what I meant.
They will make you a drink in a plastic cup to leave the bar with, to just go wherever you're going after that. So that being said, that is that. Number two, I also want to point out, drunk and disorderly are not obligated to be together. Sometimes you can just be a funny, lovey, happy, fun guy,
So
and then go home and go to bed.
And sometimes you can just be disorderly without being
Absolutely.
drunk. Okay. Yeah.
Many of us do that very regularly. All right.
Especially when you get behind an anime guy.
Freaking anime guy. Dude, I'm about to run that guy off the road. I was behind him again today. I was furious. Ace Bailey got drafted by the Jazz last night, and it was awkward.
This was not one of his preferred destinations, Utah. He was hoping to get to either Washington, New Orleans, or Brooklyn. The Utah Jazz selected Ace Bailey knowing that. This is a little bit of a stunner, but if you think about it, this is an outstanding place for Ace Bailey. They have a wide open wing situation. They have a huge need for a star in his mold.
So, Ace Bailey, who, I talked about this yesterday, was the thing I was more than anything else looking forward to seeing the drama around yesterday. This is a guy who has been not accepting or canceling or no-showing workouts with NBA teams. This is a guy who was, through his agent, effectively making demands about where he wanted to go play or to not go play. It was widely reported that at one point, the holders of the number 3 overall selection, the Philadelphia 76ers, had their president and general manager call the kid and invite him to dinner. And he was like, nah, I'm good. I don't want to be there. I don't want to come there. I don't want to play there. Well, he wanted to get drafted in the next 2 picks to either Washington or New Orleans. I've given you my theory on why. Both of those teams already have good players, but not like marquee players, but good enough players that the weight of the franchise isn't on him, but not so good that they would like dramatically overshadow him as a top 5, 6, 7, 8 pick. Whatever. He did not want to go there, and they straight up picked him. And I am now really interested in this because Ace Bailey was the most interesting story on NBA draft night number 1, and now he's going to be the most interesting story of the offseason and NBA opening night because he clearly did not want to be there. He clearly did not want to get selected and was clearly very shocked that he did. This is going to be an interesting illustration of, should young players have the right to be picky and call their shot? Is that an entitlement attitude, A? And B, does it work? Does he buy in? Does he go out there and bust it for the Jazz? Or does he phone it in for a couple of years, get himself out of there, and then go be a stud somewhere else? I don't know. I'm intrigued to see how this all plays out. We will see where it goes. When we come back, I've got 2 clips I want to talk about from the baseball world. One, from a couple of radio show hosts in New York that, I mean it when I tell you, made me as mad as I've been since Kevin Schnall got ejected from Game 2 of the College World Series. And what I think might be the funniest radio call that I have heard in a very long time. I'm going to play those for you when we come back on The Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. Oh, man. Oh, man. Oh, man. That 3-hour nap on Monday has destroyed my sleep schedule this week. Destroyed it.
Yeah, same here. I tried to get back on track yesterday by not taking a nap.
Yep.
That didn't work.
Nope. I yesterday went home with every intention of not taking a nap. And then I ended up working on the couch because I knew if I went in the office, I was going to end up getting sleepy tired. So I'm like, let me sit on the couch. I'm going to turn some music on the TV, whatever. So I'm doing the work, and the new dog jumped up at one point, and she wanted to play, and I played with her for a minute. And then she laid down on the couch next to me, and so I kept going back to work. And then she kept nudging closer, and she eventually put her head across my lap. And I'm like, oh, well, now I have to stop everything and pet the dog. So I stopped and started petting the dog. And then I let the head kind of like slip back. I'm like, oh, if I stay sitting up, I won't fall asleep. No, I fell asleep. And I stayed asleep, sitting up on the couch with the dog's head on my lap for the best I could figure was about 2.5 hours. Which means I went to bed at like 1
So
o'clock.
you said she's a big dog. It's the equivalent of a blanket, right?
Oh, yeah, she was warm. It felt very nice. It was warm.
America today is on your health, and more people are looking beyond pills and steroids and surgery. Hey, it's Charlie James for QC Kinetics. At QC Kinetics, they've been on the cutting edge of this medical revolution since 2018. Using regenerative medicine, they've helped tens of thousands of people get lasting joint pain relief using natural treatments that harness your body's own healing power. The truth is, regenerative medicine used to be an alternative treatment, but now it's mainstream. Their well-respected protocols include potent and powerful cellular-level treatments to revitalize and restore damaged joint tissue. They're not masking the pain. They're going after the very source of it. Yes, you can say goodbye to that chronic pain and live your best life. Learn more about this revolutionary treatment and get a free consultation. Call QC Kinetics now at 864-448-3772. That's 864-448-3772 in Greenville and in Nashville. 864-448-3772, QC Kinetics.
Hey, I'm Tara Servatius, host of the Battleground America podcast. It's the closest you can come to taking the red pill and exiting the matrix. There's a whole world out here, and it's real. Join us. Find the Battleground America podcast wherever you get your podcast.
All right, I'm not going to put this in What the X, but for some reason, Siren's curse showed up.
Sirens?
It's a new roller coaster at Cedar Point.
That is the one in Ohio?
Yeah.
Okay.
There are two big ones in Ohio. Cedar Point is one of them.
What's the other one?
Kings Island.
That's the one I was thinking of.
Yeah. There is no way, especially now, but as I hated roller coasters as a kid, there is no way I do this. You start out like this.
Straight down?
No, you sit
Oh,
there.
you're like that.
You sit
Yeah,
there
yeah.
for a while before they drop you
Yeah.
before the coaster starts. No, thank you.
There used to be one.
Coaster, it tilts 90 degrees
Yeah.
and holds them vertical before
Is
they
it
drop.
the one that does this, like the track?
No, it's not one of
Okay.
those.
Have
It
you
just-
seen those before?
Yeah, I have. Yeah. This is a brand new ride there.
There was one, I don't know where it is, but you go out on the flat track and you're sitting in the car, and then the track itself rotates down 90 degrees and connects with the other track pointed down. That is one of the few roller coasters that I'm like, I know that thing runs 1,000 times a day. I know it's as safe as it can be. That is even one where I'm like, I love a roller coaster. That might be too much for me. That might be too much for me.
Yeah.
Because all it takes is one loose bolt for that track not to connect, and you're getting dropped straight the bleep down.
Well, with the vertigo now, I would probably never ride another roller coaster.
I can't do them like I used to because of that. Courtney and I went to Dollywood a few years ago, and I did like 3, and I was having time of my life, and then on the 4th one, the vertigo, and I was nauseous. And I'd never been there before. The Atlanta Braves are now 5-1 against the New York Metropolitans, their National League East rivals. The New York Mets are, until last night when they finally got one over on the Braves, they win 7-3. Rookie Didier Fuentes, who got the call up about a week ago, had his second start, his first start, looked like maybe the Braves had done it again and found a rookie hurler who was going to change everything for them. Last night, he looked like a guy who got called up too early. 3.1 innings, 8 hits, 6 runs allowed. It was no bueno for Didier Fuentes. However, I want to take you back to yesterday. And had I found these clips yesterday, I would have played them yesterday. On yesterday's show, we were talking about the 5th consecutive win over the New York Mets. We were talking about the fact that, and again, I'm not down today because my take yesterday was win one of the last 2 against the Mets. You're going to drop one. It's going to be difficult to go 8-0 to start the season against this Mets team. It's a good Mets team. But I said, if you take one of the last 2 and you win this series, and then if you either win every season or every series for the remainder of the year, which you have 5 remaining, if you win every series for the rest of the season, all of them 3-game series, the Phillies, the Angels, the Orioles, the A's, and the who's the last one? Cardinals. 5 series left. If you win every series, or if you lose a series, sweep one of the other 3-game series, the Braves will be at 500 or a game over, and I'll be willing to reevaluate. If this team's within a game of the 500 mark, I'll reevaluate my stance on Atlanta, and I will enter the second half of the baseball season with a little hope and a little optimism. So I'm not worried about the loss yesterday. In fact, I don't even want to talk about the Braves in this segment that I opened up talking about the Braves. I want to talk about the Mets for a second. And I want to talk about two clips from New York sports radio that made it onto my radar yesterday. The first clip I want to talk about is a clip that I am kind of taking pretty seriously. It is a pair of sports talk radio hosts on ESPN Radio in New York City. It is the DiPietro and Rothenberg show. The show is hosted by former New York Islander Rick DiPietro and New York radio veteran Dave Rothenberg. They are the morning show on ESPN Radio. Now, the take makes a little more sense when you recognize that Rick DiPietro, who is going to be the guy that I have an issue with in this clip, is a former hockey dude. Now, you all know how I feel about former athletes making their way into radio. There are some of them that are very good, and there are some of them that I don't think are very good, and I think are taking jobs in an industry that I don't appreciate it. But hey, I'm just selfish and ego-driven. What do you want? They were talking about the fact that the New York Metropolitans yesterday were 0-5 against the Atlanta Braves with 2 left to play. They were pretty upset. And former New York Islander Rick DiPietro had a take.
This is our arch nemesis. We can't win there. Now, I mean, we've been unbelievable at home. Now we can't beat them here.
We can't beat them.
We've been great.
You're 0-5 against them in the last week.
Do I like seeing it? No, I don't like seeing it. So guess what? I'm going to throw one at him.
Well, there's actually, I don't know if you recall this the other night. So after he hit the home run later in the game, I think 8th inning, he came up to the plate and took one high and tight.
Yep.
And the crowd gave applause.
Oh, of course they did.
They were like, yeah,
they're sick of it too.
I'm saying, like, if you hit him in the ribs, you know what?
Yeah, what? Spice it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe get you. Maybe, but that's the thing though. Like this
maybe
team,
you feed off that a little bit.
But
I'm not going to go through the rest of the clip because that was the point there. Effectively, they were talking about Ronald Acuna Jr., who hit another home run in the 5th consecutive win of the Atlanta Braves over the New York Metropolitans. And the response from Rick and Rothenberg there, from DiPietro and Rothenberg, the response was, the next time he comes up, you're 0-5, you can't beat these guys, you can't beat them at their house, you can't beat them in our own house. This guy, Ronnie Acuna Jr., is out here slinging the wood and going big dong and making it look bad. The next time he comes to the plate, his thought was, beam him in the ribs. Now, that's a hockey mentality. And in hockey, I get it. I would never come into the hockey sphere and say, hey, man, don't get physical outside of the game, because let's be real, the culture of that game is physicality. But this belief from a major network radio show host on in a drive time spot in New York City, advocating that because the baseball team is playing poorly and because the baseball team is getting it handed to them by a mediocre Atlanta team, the best course of action is to put 100 miles an hour of baseball into the ribs of their best player. Is it me, or is that just gross and garbage?
I'm wondering if this is commonplace. I mean, do a lot of other baseball fans, are they good with that?
As somebody I think that qualifies as a relatively common baseball talking place occupant, there is a very large, not massive and certainly not majority, but there is a large group of baseball fans who would agree with the guy. And my response would be, no, it's still bad. It's still bad. To genuinely risk a guy's season and potentially career because he took you yard
By
again.
the way, and people don't talk about it enough, or life, because that's a projectile coming at 100 miles an hour. If you're hit in the wrong spot, could end you.
So the thought of this guy's killing you, he's hitting big dongs in your own house, he's taking you yad repeatedly, and you can't beat his baseball team, so let's go ahead and risk a few weeks or his whole season or potentially his career by beaming him to get the boys fired up. Here's a better idea, Rick DiPietro. Why don't you just have not an ass clubhouse? Maybe, and I would expect you as a hockey guy to embrace this, maybe go find your Connor McDavid, who walks into the locker room and hits a locker with a baseball bat and drops 50 F-bombs on the team in a between innings moment and gets the boys fired up. Maybe find somebody on your team to actually be a leader. Maybe find somebody on your team to take over, to be vocal, to be out loud, and to fire the boys up instead of wanting to... Now, in hockey, I get it. Y'all got your own thing going over there, and I would never step in and say, oh, that's not okay. That's hockey, different breed of cat. In baseball, no. This ain't hockey,
In
man.
TV and movies and everywhere else, this is how New Yorkers are depicted. So why is this unusual?
Because I've defended New Yorkers before for being gruff and short and rude. And I've told you why it happens. When the wife and I went up to New York last year, I, for a very brief moment of time, morphed into a New Yorker, and that was the moment that I understood. In fact, no, it was a couple of years ago.
Wow, not a stretch for you.
Because when I took the wife up there, I proposed in New York City. And when I took the wife up there to propose, I booked us a reservation at a very popular brunch spot that was up on a rooftop, up on a balcony, overlooked downtown, overlooked the Empire State Building and all that, but we had reservations. And when I made the reservations, they said to me, if you are not here at your reservation time, it will go to someone else. It's not like a 15-minute grace. Your reservation's at 10 a.m. If you're not in this door at 10 a.m., you do not have your reservation. You will have to find something. They're very clear about that. So the wife and I took an Uber from the hotel to where the restaurant was. We got out of the Uber. We started walking down the sidewalk, and in front of me was very clearly a tourist who was very clearly taking in the sights, and her and her big old fat husband were waddling down the sidewalk, taking up the sidewalk, and just oompa loompa doodly doo in their way, blocking the sidewalk.
Wow.
I don't know what you want me to say. They were large individuals. And the wife and I, who now have 3 minutes to make it to the front door of a restaurant 3.5 minutes away, are stuck behind him. And I said, pardon me, and nobody responded. I went, y'all, could you please move? Now, I'm not totally New York because I threw a y'all in there. But I was like, can y'all please move? And the lady turns around and she's like, there's no need to be rude. And I'm like, no, you're being rude right now. You're blocking up the whole sidewalk. And I almost wanted to drop I'm walking here in that moment. But I was like, no, you're being rude. You're blocking the sidewalk. All we're asking is to pass. And they moved over and we went by. And in the walk up, she's like, you good? And I was like, no, I get it now. I get it now. Because we have a place to be. I have a schedule. It's great that you don't enjoy your day, but get the hell up out of my way.
So it had nothing to do with you being nervous and getting ready to take a big step.
I wasn't nervous. I wasn't nervous because I knew she was going to say yes. We had the conversation, right? So blah, blah, blah. I've defended New Yorkers for the gruff because I understand it. What I'm not going to defend is our team sucks. They have no motivation. Nobody's got the stones in that locker room to stand up and get the boys fired up. So you know what we should do? We should throw a fastball into the ribs of an all-star.
In your circle of friends, you guys are just talking. No one ever says something like that.
Says something like, I hope that they drill the franchise in the ribs?
Yeah.
Not that I recall, but I can definitely tell you if one of them did, much like I do with any other bad take, I go, that's a bad take, dude. No, that's not cool. That's not all right. I'll call out my friends for their bad takes. No, drilling an all-star in the rib, drilling anybody, but drilling an all-star in the ribs because your team doesn't have the leadership to get it right is gross.
So I'm not completely up on the unwritten rules of baseball, but that sounds like an unwritten rule of baseball. If someone's crowding the plate, you got to brush them back, and if you don't brush them back enough,
no. We're not talking Ronnie's crowding the plate, brush him back. He just said hit his ass. I don't care if he's in the dugout. Drill him. There is a difference between crowded the plate, I pushed him back and it hit him, versus throw at his ribs, which is what this clown just said. No, dude. I don't care. This is a moment that I don't say something like this often. Brother, stick to hockey. Stick to hockey. All right? Now, I got a clip for you.
Brother.
I'm playing it, Zoe. I've decided I'm playing it. I'm taking the heat. This might be my favorite call of all time. I'm very frustrated.
By pointing out that it's something that might be.
Look, if it's going to get us in trouble, it's going to get in trouble whether I stand up or not.
But you just do that and you don't do what you're doing now.
A very frustrated Mets fan called WFAN, our sister audio station who aired this call. It's the greatest call of my life.
This team has no balls. They never did. As soon as they see the Braves, they wet the bed. They're scared of them. I can't stand this team. This team does not belong in New York. These guys do not belong in New York. I understand they're hurting, their injuries, their pitching staff. But you know what? Then you got to bang it out. You got to hit. You got to hit. You had opportunities for the last couple of nights, not to mention the first game in Atlanta that you gave it away. All right? So I don't want to hear about the pitching staff, the pitching staff. How about these hitters? How about Lindor again? He started off great.
Yeah.
Where's Big Pete? Where's Big Pete? Where's Soto? Okay? I want to see these guys. I can't stand this team. They got no balls. Okay? I want teams with balls. I want guys with balls. They see the Braves and they run away.
Big Lou. I love this. Here's the best part about this clip. We now know that Tony Soprano didn't die at the end of the TV show, all right? He moved to New York. He went into witness protection. Now he's a Mets fan. This team's got no balls. I don't know what to tell you. I'm gonna put this clip into Spotify and just listen to it on repeat. Now, there's a little extra sauce there because I'm a Braves fan and I hate the Mets and it's absolutely hysterical. There's a little extra sauce there because I'm a big Sopranos fan and that 1,000% was one of Tony's bosses, right? One of his capos, one of his underbosses there. But my man going off there and getting progressively more Tony Soprano through the call about the freaking Mets. They stink, eh? They stink. They got no balls. That's one of the greatest sports fan calls of my life. And I save them when we get them.
Did you get worried because I looked at my phone?
Yeah, I did. For a second. I was like, all right, well, maybe I did cross the line there. I don't know what to tell you. This is one of the funniest things I've ever. Texter said, that sounds like a character. That cannot be a real person. That's every person's version of a New Yorker. I don't know if it's real or not. Remember earlier I said I don't elect to believe things unless I have evidence to support the belief? This is one time I'm breaking that rule. In my headcanon, that is absolutely a real New Yorker named Lou who's mad because the Mets got no balls.
All right, so that texter is implying that radio would have a fake caller call in. That's never happened in the history of radio.
I love this call so much, I'll acknowledge, yes, there are literally services you can pay to have people call and pretend to act on your show.
It's barter, right? But I mean,
whatever.
You play their commercials and then
You can pay actors.
All right, I have never done that
Nor
ever.
have I. I don't feel the need to. I don't feel the need to. But even knowing that that's a thing that's out there, I am in my head fully electing to believe that is a real New Yorker named Lou, who's so frustrated with the Mets. These absolutely garbage Mets. They stink, boys. Garbage team. He's so mad about it that's the call we got. That's an all-time call. This is an all-time sports flash. They got no balls.
He's also that fat guy on the sidewalk that wouldn't get out of your way. The Atlanta Braves' perfection against the Mets came to a conclusion last night, so that guy can calm down a little bit. With a 7-3 loss to New York rookie Didier, Fuentes made his second big league start but got hammered, giving up 8 hits and 6 runs in 3.1 innings, striking out just one. The Braves collected 6 hits, including Drake Baldwin's 9th homer of the year, but went 1-6 with runners in scoring position. The Charlotte Hornets selected Dukes Caneppel with the 4th overall selection yesterday. Charlotte also traded center Mark Williams to Phoenix in return for number 29 pick and a first rounder, and that's also in 2029. As center Vasily Amicic, the Hornets drafted UConn's Liam McNeasy with the pick. South Carolina's Colin Murray Bowles is headed to Canada, selected 9th overall by the Toronto Raptors. He was not happy. I'm blaming the writer for my struggles today. I'm an okay reader, okay? Sometimes I'm a good reader, but, you know. I always said, when I lose my job, it's going to be either something that I said or something like that. It's not going to be job performance, although I guess technically if you allow something on the air that's not supposed to be there, it is job performance, but good thing you put the quotation marks in there, Joey B. I'm just saying.
He's got no balls. I am going to be laughing at that all day. I listened to it 4 times this morning.
By the way, I'm not saying it's not funny. I just
clips my earworm.
I just have concerns. Dude, you call me champ. I mean, come on. Paranoia in radio is if you don't have it, someday you're out there not able to get in the door anymore going, what did I do? I don't think I've ever been called champ before.
You're called champs like Buddy.
No, I get it. I absolutely get it.
There's 2 reasons somebody's calling you champ.
I feel like Will Smith's character in Men in Black. Don't call me sport. Don't call me champ.
Don't call me chief. Don't call me slugger. The Rob Brown Show back on your radio. The fan upstate. Rob Brown, the great one, Lonzo, and you. 844-326-3663 is the number. 844-FAN. FONE. If you want to jump on board and be a part of the show, now is your opportunity to do just that. Let's get a handful of stories in here for just a few minutes right now. I would like to start with this one. The Pac-12's cooked. The Pac-12's cooked. The Pac-12's done. The Pac-12's over. The Pac-12's, it's done. Texas State has announced that they are expecting an offer from the Pac-12 sometime in the near future, according to ESPN. The talks between Texas State and the Pac-12 have intensified in the last 24 hours per ESPN sources, although a formal offer from the Pac-12 to Texas State is yet to be delivered, but it is anticipated in the near future, according to sources. Texas State is in talks to join the Pac-12 in the 26-27 school year. You know, we knew the demise of the Pac-12 was coming. We knew it was inevitable the minute that USC, UCLA, and Cal all hit the door. The moment that Oregon split, and didn't just split, but left Oregon State in the dust to get up out of there. we knew the conclusion of the Pac-12 was imminent for some reason. And I am not like a super, I mean, I'm a sentimental guy. All right, I have feelings too. I'm not a super sentimental guy, though. And when it comes to sports, one of the qualities that a lot of people do not like about me is that I don't really care when it comes to changes and movement in the game and all that. I usually don't really care about my, your, or anyone else's emotional response to it. I'm more going to dive in on what is happening and why it's happening, not, oh no, geographical rivalries are dead. Is that a bummer? Yeah, I'm not saying it's not a bummer, but I'm not going to get all hung up and caught up in it because I also recognize it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Yes, we're all sad that geographical rivalries are no longer a thing in college sports. Again, teams are splitting up all the time. We're having a conversation right now that a rivalry between USC and Notre Dame that has been played since the turn of the last century is probably going away. If the networks involved with those two schools decide that they can make more money if they don't play each other than if they do, then that rivalry is cooked thoroughly. However, I do have a little bit of sadness about this. Because if Pac-12 members, Oregon State and Washington State, are doing everything they can to keep the oldest major conference in professional or in college athletics alive, and the best they can do is Texas State University, it's dead, right? It's dead. Their 2026 membership as of right now is Oregon State as of, well, let me scratch that, going into 2026. The Pac-12's football membership for 2026 is Oregon State, Washington State, Boise State, San Diego State, Colorado State, Utah State, and Fresno State. Gonzaga is in the league, but they do not have a football team. They will represent in basketball, so that is really good news because that is a likely March Madness team that this conference is going to be able to send to the tournament and get a little pay scratch out of it. In a weird way, and I don't know why, because I'm not a Pac-12 guy. I don't have Pac-12 ties outside. Like, my closest Pac-12 tie is Cody Decker graduated from UCLA 15 years ago, right? Like, that's the closest tie that I have. But for whatever reason, when I read that, yes, the biggest names in the Pac-12 in 2026. And at a point in time where the Pac-12 is fighting not to remain alive, because it's going to stay alive, but it's fighting to remain as relevant as the Big 12, the ACC, that the best they could do is Texas State University, with, of course, all due respect to TSU. That's it. That's it. When you are trying to rebuild a Power 4 conference and take it back to a place of respectability amongst college football, the best you could end up with is Texas State University. I don't know why. I don't have a reason for it, because when the Big 12 fully broke up, with Oregon and USC headed to the Big 12, with Cal and Stanford headed to
Oregon,
the ACC.
USC went to the Big 10.
I mean, Big 10, not Big 12. With Cal and Oregon headed to, or with, Stanford and Cal headed to the ACC. When those moves happened, I was like, yeah, all right, rip the Big 12. It's done. It's cooked. But I showed up on the radio the next day when everybody was like, why in the world is Stanford and Cal on the notably Pacific Coast joining the Atlantic Coast Conference? And my response was, that's the biggest names from that conference that weren't going to join the mega powers of the Big Ten and the SEC. Those were the biggest schools that did not catch an invite from the two schools that have all the money. You're lucky you got them because there's at least some weight to them. The Washington State and Oregon State got straight up, stood up in that conference, and the best dance partners that they could find were Boise State, the San Diego State Aztecs, and Texas State University. Quick, anybody, what's the mascot of Texas State University? And I pride myself on being a guy who can respond with most mascots, knowing what the logos are, knowing whatever.
I'm going to go with salamanders.
Holy crap, you're right. No, you're obviously not right. It's the Bobcats. Duh. Don't you know about
I knew it was an animal. It was Texas. So I know there are lizards in Texas. So that's why I went with salamander.
Don't you know about the legacy of the prestigious Texas State Bobcats?
Why, no, Rob, I do not.
I don't know how you know, Lon. I don't know how you don't know that, Lon. So they were the number 16 seed in the 1997 men's basketball tournament, and they were the number 15 seed in 1994. With all of that, because that's all of it, with all of that prestigious basketball history, how could you not know about the Texas State Bobcats, man?
You looked it up, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The last time they made the tournament was 1997. Your boy was 12 years old. I absolutely looked it up. I don't know, man. In like a weird way, for some reason, Texas State being the best the Big 12 could do somehow made me more sad than USC going to the Big 10. Like that, I don't know. I got nothing. That bummed me out more than USC saying, yeah, no, we're out of the Pac-12. Oregon saying we're out of the Pac-12. Those two definitely on the Pac schools going to the Heartland of America conference. I don't know why it bugged me, but it bugged me. Like that one kind of cracked me up a little bit. I don't have a reason. I don't have a rationale. All right, I wanted to bring this story back up. It was part of the water cooler cheat sheet earlier. We'll spend a few more minutes here, though not a ton of time on it. But Bret Bielema, I know many of you have some very strong feelings about Bret Bielema. How could you not? Old Bret Bielema and buddy of the show, Shane Beamer, during their bowl game matchup a number of months ago, about damn near got into a fist fight. You will remember, of course, that at a point in time that there was an injured South Carolina Gamecock on the sideline. Bret Bielema came out and started doing the coach's tee, timeout, whatever signal. And old Shano was getting him after it. Now, they have kissed and made up since then.
Yeah, are you buying it? I'm not. That was some real hatred.
Shane wanted to beat his ass. Are you kidding me?
No, that was real hatred.
Yeah.
Who didn't?
Yeah.
I mean, you, as not a Gamecock fan.
The only people who didn't were Illinois fans.
Yeah, I was going to say, I wanted to fight them too.
Yeah. I mean, I've said it before. I'm not a Gamecock fan. I'm married to one. So, like, by proxy, I guess, I wanted him to win that game. But again, I also justify that with Gamecocks do well, Rob and Lonzo get paid well. So, go Cox and go Tigers. Y'all do well, I get paid well. Lonzo's not going to agree with me on that one, but you get the point. Yes, I also wanted to fist fight Bret Bielema in that moment. But that's kind of the thing for Bret Bielema. That's kind of who he is. That's kind of the appeal for a lot of people about that guy is he's a heel, full on. However, I kind of appreciate Bret Bielema's heel activities from yesterday. Bret Bielema was on a podcast yesterday, and Bret Bielema, without making the accusation outright, pretty much accused Georgia of tampering with players. Bret Bielema was on the Triple Option podcast, and he was talking about a young running back by the name of Josh McCray. Josh McCray was a 600-plus yard rusher with 10 touchdowns on 117 carries last year. Josh McCray was expected to see his production tick up. Brett Bielema's offense is very run-heavy at Illinois, and this kid was their most experienced and successful running back returning from last year. So Josh McCray was expected to kind of be a dude in Illinois this year. Josh McCray entered the transfer portal, and Josh McCray signed on to play college football next year at the University of Georgia. Now, that is obviously Josh McCray's prerogative. He can go into the portal, and he can land where he wants to land. He landed at Georgia, and Brett Bielema on the Triple Option podcast said in the middle of discussing his current running back room, and I quote, "Somehow," I'm doing the dramatic emphasis myself, just so we're clear. This is interpretive reading from yours truly. I'm trying to win that Oscar.
He's also going through the motions, so you should watch it on the stream. So
Facebook.com/The Fan Upstate, The Fan Upstate on YouTube, The Fan Upstate on X, The Rob Brown Show on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Twitch. Brett Bielema said, and I quote, "We did lose a guy to Georgia. Somehow, he found his way to the portal, and 12 hours after being in the portal, he was on a flight to Georgia." I don't know how that happened, but it's crazy. It's not exactly how he said it, but you get the point. He did say, "We wish Josh all the best. He took advantage of that opportunity." The opportunity, of course, being leave Illinois and go to not the SEC favorite, but one of the two to win the conference this year. So Brett Bielema didn't outright make the accusation that the University of Georgia was tampering. But he did, let's say, not so mildly imply that that is what happened. And I'm going to say this. While I do wish he would outright say it, the reality is he can't, because that would be an allegation of rules violating, cheating, doing something illegal in the eyes of the College Sports Commission. And unless Brett Bielema was able to come up with a text message or a Twitter DM or a phone call recording or something to prove that Georgia did indeed reach out to and recruit Josh McCray from the program before he went into the portal, then he can't outright accuse them of doing that. He's got to have some proof. Otherwise, it's just slanderous or libel, whichever one's the words one and not the write it down one. Now, I would also make the argument that it is not an unbelievable reality that Georgia, being a top flight program in these great United States of America, when the portal opened and Josh McCray, along with thousands of other athletes, entered it for the first time, did not have a coach or a staff member whose job during the portal period was to sit in front of their computer, go to the NCAA's portal tracker, and just slam the F5 button every 7 seconds to find out who was entering their name into it. And they pushed F5, the screen refreshed, and there's Josh McCray's name. And they go, "Welp, we're not going to find another 10-touchdown, 600-yard rusher in the portal, so let's go ahead and make the offer." Remember, players can enter into the portal with a do not contact clause. If they do not do that, then anybody can reach out to them and effectively make an offer. It would not be a crazy reality that Georgia has a portal coach whose only job is to refresh the screen, and when a name they are interested in fits a profile they're trying to fill, say, "Carbs. Hey, Kirby, here's this dude." And it would not be a unbelievable reality that Kirby Smart called the kid minutes after he went in the portal and said, "Hey, I don't know if you've heard about the Georgia Bulldogs, but we're pretty good at football, and we run the ball a lot. And we'd like you to come run the ball a lot here at the University of Georgia, who is pretty good at football." And a guy like Josh McCray, leaving a good, developing, trending upwards under Brett Bielema team in Illinois, to go, "Welp, I can stay with the Illini, and I could be a threat to win 12 games, but I would be a real long shot to win the conference." Real long shot. Or I can go to the University of Georgia, and I could play my ball there. And I could be a definite opportunity to win the SEC. I would be a almost guarantee to make the college football playoffs next year, and I could be a highlight player on that team. And if I've got aspirations of making the NFL, let's be real, Georgia's going to put me on tape more than Illinois will. It is not an unbelievable reality that kid takes that call and says, you got it, coach. I'm headed to the Champlain, probably not international airport right now. I'll be in Athens in 12 hours. I'll see you when I see you, coach. And just automatically take that spot. Because, again, there are some places that if they come calling, you say yes. If WFAN New York calls me right now and goes, Rob Brown, we want to hire you to come up here to the Big Apple and do radio. Are you interested? I'm saying yes on that phone call. You got it, boss. I'm on a plane tomorrow. And I think people would understand that. So Brett Bielema can't outright accuse Georgia of tampering, but he can insinuate it. And I got to tell you, I'm going to be real interested to see how this plays out. And if we can get Kirby Smart on the radio at SEC Media Days in 3 weeks, you better damn sure believe I'm going to ask him about this. Hey, coach, you got any words for Brett Bielema? Including fight me, bro? Because I do. All right, let's talk some more football when we come back on The Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate. All right, guys, stay right there. We'll be right back. Thursday, guys. You know what that means. Fight Club. I'm glad I set it up the whole show. It's Thursday. It's Thursday, guys.
Welcome into the Fight Club.
Thursday.
Where, I might be canceled. I don't know. No tease the entire day. Completely forgotten. But that's a fighter rises up when they're forgotten. That's what a fighter does.
The double champ does what the bleep
A fighter
he wants.
comes out and goes, you know what? You can't cancel me. We're here to talk some Fight Club.
Okay, so in fairness,
I waited all day.
I know.
For you to mention.
I know.
And I also, although we weren't on stream, you guys could have seen it, I just sit here and wait and watched his eyes when the intro played.
I couldn't figure it out. In fairness, I did kind of have to scramble because I found out this morning that Rashad needed to move. He was like, oh, my bad, I meant to tell you. And then, of course, for those of you that missed it earlier, Hayden S. Mario has moved back to Chicago. He is no longer with the network. He has taken some more opportunities in his young broadcasting career. And so I kind of had to reshuffle everything that I planned on doing today, and it all got out of me. That's my bad.
Hey, if you're going to Mark Ryan me, I'm going to call you out. So, shades of that, like, oh, okay, all right.
Let's
I get it.
Let's be real clear. I am the one who told you when you shifted over. Fight Club should be a thing on this show.
Well, yeah.
Do the Fight Club.
Yeah.
And
I didn't want to, but you wanted me to anyway.
Right.
Because I wanted to leave the vestiges of that old world behind. But, it's okay. It's fine. I'm not really hurt. I thought it was funny.
Fight Club!
Which is why I was looking at you the entire time. That's cool. All right, because it is a benchmark, except for certain weeks. All right, let us talk about what we weren't sure was going to happen, but
Are we sure it's going to happen now?
According to reports, they flew out this morning.
Okay.
I don't think they should have told us they flew out. I don't think they should have told the world that they flew out this morning. It could be a smokescreen. But yeah, so Night of Champions happening Saturday in Saudi Arabia. And we know there's the unrest going on over there, and it's not very safe, but they have said, hey, we will keep you safe. So we'll see. So it's going to happen, and because it's in Saudi, it happens at 1 p.m. on Saturday. I know you're in the middle of doing something, but
yeah, I put it on the background.
Yeah, there you go. So it's on TV at 1 p.m. I like that. All right, there might be some more matches added, but for now, here we go. A match added, I believe it was Monday. Sami Zayn versus, and here's where we find out if Rob's going to say, see, the crowd has spoken. Sami Zayn versus Karrion Kross in his first PLE in a couple years.
First off, Killer Kross. Killer Kross has got the opportunity to be a fantastic freaking character on this show, and I'm really excited about it. That being said, this feels like a couple of matches we expected to have fallen off, and we got to do something. So let's put something there. Here's these two guys. And that, unfortunately, for a dude who's been doing his best work lately, doesn't make me feel great about Karrion Kross's opportunity to win this, especially considering Sami Zayn's such a favorite.
Doesn't have to
win.
And
on top of that,
he doesn't have to win. He's just got to go out there and have a great showing. That's what he's got to do.
Well, again,
I'm not going to say put on a 5-star match because I don't know what that is, but go out there and make the people remember who you are, especially the people who are keeping you off TV.
I mean, I think remind them who they are. Like, I think he needs the opportunity to really bring the Killer Kross character into the ring, because some of the promos he's been doing, including plenty with Sami Zayn, have been very good. And on top of that, he's such a good promo artist. I'm not going to be talking like the thing that somebody pointed out, that over the past X amount of months, whoever he was trying to get into their head, he would like do his hair the same way and like kind of dress a little bit like them to kind of like get buddy with them. Sami Zayn's one of those guys he's been trying to win over. Not only do I think that I don't think Karrion Kross wins, I think Sami Zayn wins, but I think this could be an opportunity to turn Zayn back, which I don't want, because Sami Zayn as the face is just fun. But I'll go Sami wins this thing.
Yeah, there's a rumor someone else bigger will be turning heel pretty soon. We'll see. And that would be Cody Rhodes. I don't entirely believe
buy
it. All right, Dirty Dom is not going to Saudi because his ribs got hurt. I don't know if it's real or not. I don't. Maybe he just don't want to go.
My understanding is that's a legitimate injury.
Okay, because when he was trying to sell it Monday, it looked pretty fake. So he's still young in wrestling. He's got to learn how to do some things. Selling an injury, he's not good at it yet. All right, the next match is a street fight between Rhea Ripley and Raquel Rodriguez. We've seen this so many times. Need some taller wrestlers. Taller women's wrestlers that look like they can go with Rhea Ripley, because right now it's just Raquel Rodriguez until Lash Legend gets good enough to move up.
And on top of that, I call this shot when she
and
showed up.
and Nia Jax, but
It is tough when you're going to send Rhea Ripley out to the ring with mommy. It is tough for her to sell the I'm a big monster gimmick that they've tried to put on Raquel the last since she showed up. Because, just standing next to Rhea, it's no, you're in good shape, but, you're not, mommy's jacked. You're very much not. But being said,
she is the same height. So, there's that.
Sure.
And you're not going to see any of that anyway because they're in Saudi and they'll be completely covered up.
Also true.
Yeah. Stop
going to Saudi Arabia, please. That being said, no reason mommy loses this fight.
I agree. Rhea Ripley wins. Unless they continue to push the Prodigy in Judgment Day and she comes out and somehow helps Raquel beat Rhea Ripley, because the rumor is she's going to be taking Liv Morgan's place in the tag team because Liv got hurt, unfortunately. All right, United States Championship. Excuse me, choked up about this because it's a family matter. Jacob Fatu versus Solo Sikoa. Man, I don't want to see Jacob lose. I don't, but Solo hasn't won in a while. And if you want to continue this feud, the only way to do it is to take the belt off of Jacob Fatu. So I think Solo Sikoa is going to win.
I don't. I think one of the things that takes precedent is to not have a dude who ends up organically over. Jacob Fatu ended up organically over, completely disappear. While he is strapped right now, he's got a mid-card strap that, to me, people really haven't been paying attention to very much lately. I think Fatu retains.
All right, Queen of the Ring tournament final, Asuka versus Jade Cargill.
Welcome back, Asuka, by the way.
Yeah. It looks great, but she always does. Jade Cargill, I think, has improved a bunch, but she's also now wrestling top-tier talent who will take care of her a great deal to make some of the edges that still haven't been fixed yet look better. I think the push is for Jade Cargill. I don't know that they give it to Asuka. I'm going to go with Jade Cargill. I think Asuka should win, but I'm going to go with Jade Cargill.
I would rather have Asuka as my queen of the ring, no doubt about it, but I agree. Jade Cargill, since she showed up, even when she was not doing good work, they kept her at the top of the marquee. There's a reason for that. They're not going to change it now. And especially on top of that, she is apparently either filming or about to film a major movie. She's going to be a player in a main character in a major movie coming up. So they're going to capitalize on that too. They're not going to take the belt. They're going to put the crown on her before she starts showing up on Hollywood movie posters soon.
All right. King of the Ring tournament final. Randy Orton versus Cody Rhodes. Should be the best match in the entire thing as far as wrestling goes. I don't know. I really don't know. I'm going to go with Randy Orton winning this. Cody's probably going to, but I'm going to go with Randy Orton so he gets another shot at Cena. Because I don't think Cody wrestles him yet.
We all know that the John Cena story ends back at Cody Rhodes.
Yes.
Right? We all agree with that. I hope, honestly, respectfully, hope it doesn't. I hope it's Buddy of the show Ron R. The Truth Killings. But blah, 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 whatever. It's going to end up with Cody. You can't have Cody lose this match and then try to finagle him between here and there back into that position. I think Cody Rhodes at this point has been booked into a corner that he kind of has to win this.
All right, WWE Championship, John Cena versus CM Punk. Cena, best promo of his entire career. And the way that Punk just laid there in the table the entire time. I thought was really good. He twitched a little bit.
You
but
mean
still.
you mean when John Cena did exactly what Punk did in the pipe bomb that you hated so much, and when you mean that Punk did exactly what Cena did when Punk did the pipe bomb?
The writers now are better than the writers were back then. So yes, and John Cena's a good actor. So yeah.
He acted laying down on the table so much better than Punk did.
Obviously, yeah, it was definitely more convincing. I mean, less movement, less eye twitching, less angry smirking. So I don't know how is this a decent match? I mean, Cena has wrestled better than what I thought he would in this final run, and as he's wrestling more, he's getting back into it. How does this thing end? I don't know. Cena's going to win, but I don't know how he wins.
So let me start with this. It was a phenomenal promo, and whether or not CM Punk is in real life a hypocrite for going when he years ago told somebody at WWE to enjoy filleting a particular body part covered in Saudi blood money, and is now going to Saudi because it puts him on the top of the marquee. In real life, I don't know. I think Cena utilizing it as the reason that this is interesting is interesting. Again, CM Punk's not the guy that is going to end the heel run, the final run of one John Cena. We all know Punk is winning, or that Cena is winning this thing at the end of the night. In fact, if I recall correctly, I think John Cena is like I don't know what the number is, but I saw it yesterday. He's like the fourth shortest odds to retain in the history of PLEs, period.
Cash in?
Right?
Cash in possibility?
Nah, I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think you have Cena lose, especially when he took a heel turn that, when it happened, was probably arguably the second most shocking heel turn of all time. And then Dwayne blew it up because Dwayne, and then Cena being so good at his job has in the past 3 weeks made it interesting again.
All right. Let me just throw something out there. All right. So Cody and CM Punk said, Cody said we can't dodge each other forever. So Cody wins. Then CM Punk beats John Cena and wins the title. And then there's a cash in. And then Seth Rollins wins the title. And then Cody faces Seth Rollins, and then CM Punk faces Cody Rhodes, and CM Punk ends the year as the champion. Good night, everybody.
I mean, again, fantasy booked, but is that how you want to end the Cena heel run? Just a random PLE on a Saturday afternoon to CM Punk in a foreign country.
You know what? Just because he loses that title doesn't mean he can't win the other one.
Yeah, but I mean,
I don't know. I don't know.
I think you'd be honestly. I think.
I don't think it's going to play out. I don't think it's going to follow chalk what we expect to happen.
No, I think there will be something, because the other thing they won't want to do is, regardless of your feeling towards CM Punk, I was at Raw a couple of months ago when that guy came out at the end. It was the loudest that building was all night. They're not going to kill him off, but I also don't think you are going to take, the
I don't
20.
Think he's going to die.
No, I don't mean that. I mean, I don't think you are going to kill off. Metaphorically speaking, I don't think you're going to kill off the most shocking heel turn you have had in 40 years. I don't think 30 years. I'm not that old. I don't think you're going to kill off that heel turn, and I don't think you're going to do it at 2:00 in the afternoon on a Saturday in a foreign country to then set up matches we've already seen multiple times. However Cena's heel run ends, it's got to be as momentous as how it started, and Punk on a Saturday afternoon in Saudi Arabia ain't it.
All right, one last thing. I had a bunch of stuff, but that's fine. One last thing. This is very important. Chad Cable is injured and out, and this is weird. This is very strange. El Grande Americana also got injured, and so he's not going to be able to wrestle.
The coincidence of
all you conspiracy theorists who think that they're the same people. Now you're going to be able to say it even more.
You know what you hate it for? You hate it for a company that has got Chad Gable, who has been doing phenomenal work, and at the same time that you found him, you had the opportunity to sign this legendary luchador who's been traveling the world for decades now. He finally gets his opportunity to show up, and they both get hurt at the same time. Like, that's painful for the company.
It happens a lot. You look at all the people who are injured right now. Yeah. Dom's injured. There's just a bunch of
none
guys.
of you ever say Dom's El Grande Americano. Why would you say it about?
He could be. He's got a luchador background.
When we come back, let's have a little fun to wrap up the show. EA Sports College Football 2026 is about a month away from being released. Earlier this week, they released their top 10 most difficult stadiums to play in list. And I will start by saying both of y'all made it, but one of you made it higher than the other. Who went where? We'll talk about that when we come back on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. James, that's a very popular character and a fictional one. Obviously, Chad Gable and El Grande Americano are both real people with very different backgrounds and very different paths to the WWE, which is why it is very unfortunate that they both got injured at the exact same time.
Have you got a chance to watch?
And we have seen, for the record, we have seen El Grande Americano and Chad Gable on the screen at the same time.
We have, and there's also Ludwig Kaiser. We haven't seen in a while. Was in the background when Chad Gable got hurt.
I'm actually here for that match.
People out there who think that Ludwig Kaiser is actually El Grande Americano. I've seen it. I've seen those people out there who think that's who it is.
I'm here for Kaiser v. Gable. That would be a slap.
If you get a chance, I haven't watched all of it, you should watch Kevin Owens on with Cody.
I saw clips of it.
Yeah, I've
Saw
watched
the one where they were talking about.
watched a little over half of it. Kevin Owens calls Cody out on so much stuff. And Cody has to go, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, you're right.
And I just saw a clip today about the Big Show thing stepping through the table.
Yeah.
And they said it was planned the whole way. And all these people online think it was an accident. And how many times Big Show actually, friend of the show, Big Show, how many times his chair is actually broken in places? He cannot laugh while sitting in a regular chair because it just breaks.
I stumbled upon the clip the other day of Cody Rhodes and the Big Show in that, was it Intercontinental Championship tables match when...
That's what I just said. It's like, you just don't listen to me. I guess I wasn't descriptive enough. When he stepped to the table.
Oh, yeah, you did.
I did. It's okay. Just like you forgot that today was, Fight Club.
I'm sad about Mario. Don't
By
tell
the
him I
way,
said that.
I completely get that. And that's kind of messed up that you're using that as a reason why you forgot.
Well,
Because you
it's
forgot
emotional
before.
and it works.
You forgot before. If you've never forgotten before,
it's emotional
it'll be different.
and it works. You can't get mad at me if I'm sad about my friend.
I also like Mario. So, I mean, There's a producer bond that just exists. Producers come on and just right away, we go up against people, the evil people like Rob Brown.
I just saw that thing you sent me, and I'll do it.
By the way, I was serious.
Okay.
I'm sure they probably have people in mind, or they've been asking to do that for quite some time. But
Because they ain't heard us yet.
no, what I'm saying is they wanted to go 24/7 for a while. So that's also something you can do without moving. This just made me think of LFG, James, where Booker best endeavored people and then walked out on LFG. My wife's like, did he really leave? It's like, come on. It's just drama for the show. He did look ticked, but, he's a decent actor. Also a fun interview. Still one of the surprise interviews that Mark Ryan never got. I was like, he's like, want me to get Booker T? He's like, you won't do it. And he did.
So EA Sports makes a, you may have heard of it, very popular college football game that made its return to your video gaming consoles last year.
Which is really awesome. If you have Xbox Game Pass, you don't have to buy it.
Also true, which I do. And July 10th when it drops, don't call me. I'm busy for a very long time. So, yesterday, EA Sports, College Football 26, next year's iteration, released their rankings of the top 25 most difficult places to play. Basically, toughest places to play, best home field advantage in college football. Here is the list. Number 25, Davis Wade Stadium, Mississippi State. Number 24, Spartan Stadium, Michigan State. Number 23, I'll just say the schools. I don't have to name every stadium. Number 23, Oklahoma State. Number 22, NC State. Number 21, Notre Dame Stadium. Number 20, Utah. Number 19, Iowa. The Hawkeyes of Iowa State, pardon me. Number 18, Washington. 17, Jordan-Hare, Auburn. Opelika, Alabama. Number 16, Williams-Brice Stadium, checking in at 15. Now, I will say this. As somebody who has been to a good chunk of the stadiums on this list, I would say, without having been to anywhere with the exception of Notre Dame at 21 is too low. That's a great home field advantage. I do not imagine a world in which it is easier to play at Notre Dame than Utah, with all due respect to Utah, or Washington. Although I've heard Washington gets a little cray-cray. They're at 18.
What else is there in Utah?
That's also fair. But 17 up, the vibe changes. Number 17, Auburn. Number 16, Willie B. in Columbia, South Carolina. They check in one spot behind Camp Randall Stadium. That is Wisconsin. That is one spot behind Doak S. Campbell Stadium. Tallahassee, Florida, the Florida State Seminoles. That's a tumble for the boys, but after a 2-10 season, what do you expect? Texas is number 13. Tennessee is number 12. This is, I'm going to say, the first absolute egregious error on the list. I've been to Neyland. There's no way it is number 12 on this list. They got Texas A&M.
By the way, is there a way since you've been there that it's had a drop off? I mean, it's a possibility, right?
Tennessee's been bad many, many, many years, and that place still kicks ass.
Still up and coming though. By the way, Tennessee.
Yeah, for sure. Get them hype. Get them hype. Number 11, the Colt, Texas A&M. That's a tough place to play just because you can't drink the Gatorade. You don't know what's in it. You know what I mean? Like you drink the Gatorade, maybe you see the aliens on the spaceship coming to pick you up and take you.
I didn't know if you were serious.
It's
maybe
a cult joke.
They spiked it or something.
No, it's a cult joke.
I get it now.
It's cool. It's Kool-Aid. It's a don't drink the Kool-Aid joke. Number 10, Michigan Stadium, home of the Wolverines. Number 9, Autzen Stadium, the zoo out there in Oregon. Number 8, Gaylord Family Stadium, Oklahoma Memorial Stadium, the Oklahoma Boomer Sooners. They've got 7, Ben Hill Griffin Stadium. Bit of a tumble from recent years for the mighty Gators of Florida. Ben Hill's always kind of been up towards the 1, 2, 3 region. They find themselves at number 7. They have got Clemson at number 6. Memorial Stadium checks in ahead of Ben Hill Griffin. I'm going to say this with all due respect in the world. No.
You know what? I'm going to say I'm okay with it. And here's the reason why. Because they threaten to throw small children off the side of the stadium when the parent of the child doesn't stand up and do the stupid CLEMS or what's the next letter in chant.
So Lonzo says it's number 1 in difficulty to attend a game as an away fan. But I say this with all due respect.
I had no colors and no choices at that time. But they made it for me anyhow.
As somebody who has been to multiple games at both of these stadiums, no. It is Ben Hill Griffin. And y'all know how I feel about a Gator. Y'all know how I feel about Augusta Gator. That place is brutal. No, it's not. They've got Bryant Denny at number 5 for the University of Alabama. Georgia Sanford Stadium, number 4. The Ohio State University's Ohio Stadium at number 3. Checks in right behind Beaver Stadium, the home of the Penn State Nittany Lions. And SU returns to the number one most difficult place to play in college football list. I am going to say of the places that I feel like they got it wrong and places they got it right. Ben Hill Griffin is too low. I would say, as somebody who's been to, again, both of these stadiums, I would put it ahead of Clemson. I would put it ahead of Alabama. I have not been to Georgia yet. I've heard Georgia's right up there with it. I think I would probably slot them at number 5. I'd drop Alabama and Clemson back.
Penn State's only tough for one thing, and that's the whiteout, and they only do it once a year, pretty much.
I also haven't been to Penn State. Double D's been trying to get me up there for a while. He invites me up every year, and I just haven't been able to make it work. I'd really like to get up there to a game because I've heard they're spectacular. I don't know. I haven't been there yet. I can say Ben Hill deserves to go above Clemson and Alabama. I'd put it on par with Georgia. I would probably drop Oklahoma down 4 or 5 spots behind Oregon, behind Michigan. I would move Neyland up. I'd probably move Neyland all the way up ahead of Clemson. I think that's really it for me in the top 10.
And now, the Rob Brown Show presents Twitter.
I didn't know if you forgot that too, so we had extra time, so we're good. All right. The things he wants to say to me, which he probably will after the show.
I was gonna make a okay wife joke there because she's really good at that too. That emotional manipulation.
There are ways that we're technically twins, so my
therapist told me to address it in a more productive manner. So.
Wow. Okay, the first thing that's Xing is Superman.
Did we get a new trailer?
We got a new clip.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think they're dropping too many clips. This one you need to watch though. I mean, really, it's like
I think they're dropping too many clips, but go watch it right now.
Well, I
respect it.
Even though you say you're going to go see Superman, you have not been a fan of Superman.
I haven't.
But
I've also told you I'm very in on this movie because
this clip throws something else in there that's going to get fans of certain things to go, oh, I got to go see this now.
My ticket's bought, by the way. July 10th, 7:30 at Regal. My ticket is already in the phone. It's ready to go. I'm excited. 7:30, going with some of the soccer nerds to go see it.
Thanks for inviting me.
Well, it just happened yesterday. I haven't even talked to you yet. And now I'm definitely not, because if I'm emotionally hurting you already, why not keep up the run?
You're right. The phone. I mean, it ain't like we've never been to movies together or anything. Fine.
I'm excited about this Superman movie for 2 reasons. Number one, as I have said many, many times, the premise, for me, the best version of Superman is when the Superman story isn't about Superman. It's about everyone around Superman. It's about the bad guys. It's about his friends. It's about his family. It's about the loved ones. It's about the regular people. The clip that won me over was largely inconsequential, but there's a clip where there's a little kid in very clearly like some sort of war-torn area, and while everybody else is running for their lives, this little kid stops and he puts up a flagpole that has the Superman flag with a logo on a flag on it, and I was like, that's what this is supposed to be about. Number 2, all of the trailers and commercials so far make it look like Lex is just going to throw progressively bigger and more badass things to kill him at, which means we're just going to get bigger and better cinematic Superman fights. Give it to me.
This new clip is between Lex and Superman, by the way. All right. The next thing it's Xing is Wrexham.
I saw them trending earlier. I believe that it is because Paul Mullins is leaving Wrexham. If you have followed Wrexham FC since the debut of the documentary on FX, Paul Mullins, who was the best player they signed, they got him early, and he had no business being there. He should have been a league or 2 up, but he wanted to play there. He wanted to come out, whatever, is leaving the team on a transfer. I don't know if that's why they're
From what I can tell, schedule just dropped, and that's what it is.
Yeah. I know they're coming over here to play a few games in the States.
Didn't look at it closely, but I did see that
That's
schedule.
probably why I believe they are playing like 2 or 3 games in the States this year, and they are going to be probably not as popular, but they will have that banana ball push if everybody wants to be a part of the pop culture phenomenon. They'll probably sell out a couple of big time stadiums.
All right, the next thing that's Xing is Bond, James Bond.
James. Is this because of the Idris Elba push that we're getting right now?
No, actually, they've named a director for the next movie, and it is Denis Villeneuve, and who has just directed all the Dune movies. He is the guy who's going to be directing the next James Bond.
Okay, the Doom movie seems to be relatively well received.
They are excellent.
Yeah.
Yes, they are.
Now, obviously, switching from dystopian sci-fi to spy thriller is going to be interesting. But I also think this is one of those things that, and I don't really feel this way about most movies, but like, if he's going to have Dune tones where it's going to be like kind of dark and dusty and whatever, I think you got to have the right James Bond. And we still don't know who that's going to be yet.
Yeah, I don't know that they're going to go with those kind of tones. I'm sure he directed stuff before that.
I would like to submit that we bring back Pierce Brosnan.
He's too old.
Say what you want. I love Pierce Brosnan as James Bond. GoldenEye was just fun.
There's a former Superman who I think would be good, and
her name was Xena Onatopp.
Yes.
That's the second best Bond girl name ever.
I also really, I think Idris Elba would be pretty good, but he's pretty old. So if you're wanting to start over, you got to go with the younger guy.
I don't think you do. I think we could go the direction of having a, like an older Bond who's got that one last mission. And on top of that, if you ever wanted to play into the theory that James Bond is the code name, not the actual guy, what a cool moment to do that in the movie. Have an old Idris and then he dies and then they pick the next Bond and that's how you debut the next Bond. Oh, I think it'd be awesome.
I would leave that out there. All right, the last thing that's Xing is Tony Stark.
Tony Stark Xing because Ironheart dropped on Disney last night, and while I have not gotten the opportunity to watch it yet, I'm going to assume that there is quite a bit of Tony Stark reference / discussion / maybe a cameo.
I wouldn't say if there was, but there is backlash between how one is treated and the other is treated. It's just all internet stuff. But that's why it's Xing. It's not. It's pretty good. I've seen 3 episodes and I like it.
Well, there's only 3 out, so you've seen all the episodes. All right, that's it for us. Hope you enjoyed the show. If you didn't, it's your own fault. Come back tomorrow. We'll try again because it's Friday. We get weird on Friday. Friday got to get down on Friday. Y'all have a great rest of your day. He's Lonzo. I'm Rob. We'll see you back here tomorrow for the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. They got no balls.
Can't believe you haven't clipped that yet. You're just not willing to risk it.
I didn't know if it was going to be cleared or not. I do have one clip that I didn't have a spot today for it to make its debut, but I did pull it as a clip. The next clip that will be making its debut on the show is, where did it go? Oh, here it is. Here's my next clip.
I'm surprised that you didn't have that already.
It's downloaded. It's on the board.
Yeah.
I was looking for a spot. I almost played it after they got no bulls, but I was like, no, that clip's too good. I got to stand it on its own. That's gonna be a great. That clip would have been like for a moment where like Nico Harrison traded Luka.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
like that kind of decision is where this is gonna be a spare clip, but a clip that 100%.
It has a future that will. Yeah. It'll go on forever.
Correct. Also, I may have to retrim it. Oh, no, I don't. I got it right. Okay. It just clipped for some reason. Anyway. All right, dudes and dudettes. You also haven't seen Superman and Cena together at the same time. Cena was asked at a con yesterday if there was any future for him in the MCU. And he said that as of right now, no, because he's a DCU guy and he's enjoying playing that role.
And he and James Gunn are really good friends.
Yep.
So.
But he also said that in his ideal world, there is a future where we get a DC MCU crossover movie, and that all the superheroes would come together from both universes to fight one.
Come on,
big bad.
that Peacemaker versus Deadpool. Why would you not want to see that?
Well, I mean, Deadpool wins the fight, but that's not fair because Deadpool wins every fight. He killed the whole Marvel universe. Now, Deadpool versus Peacemaker versus Punisher could be a lot of fun. Peacemaker versus Wolverine. Okay, I'm gonna go because I want to go home and work while I watch Ironheart. So y'all have a great day. Thanks for being here. You're amazing. Tell your friends about us. We're trying to retire. Thank you for watching. You're amazing.
Retire.